Yo, what's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us again on the CTW podcast. Ryan here. I'm along with Jason. Jason, what's going on, man?
What's up?
How you
This
feeling?
okay. This is our first attempt at the CTW studios.
Yeah, it's I was excited about the opportunity coming into an in studio, in person interview. This was more by necessity than it was by desire right now. Unfortunately, our guest is not up to times technologically speaking, and had no idea what a Zoom was, which is peek behind the curtain. This is generally how we do the interviews, just contacting somebody at their house, and everybody but one person has Zoom and is aware of it, and we weren't just had to come here in
I,
person,
I
all
think
sitting at the
I
same
think
desk today.
long term this is what we want to do though, because I
Yeah.
think we can get it better quality. I like going face to face.
Yeah, I don't play Zoom, so
I have a new respect for all the efforts that go into what comes into setup and everything. Full disclosure, we're running about an hour behind right now, just trying to get the lights and cameras and before we can say action. But let's not waste too much time. Get right to it. Our most requested guest here with us, the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Ricker. What's going on, sir?
how do? This is a delightful opportunity. I'm good. I'm ready to answer questions or talk about any subject you want.
Well,
But
yeah, I
I
mean,
just want to
let's-
know if it's uncensored. If this is real,
Yeah,
then I'm gonna
this
I'm
is
gonna tell the
uncensored.
truth.
Whatever you want. We're looking for the truth.
Well,
Right.
we're looking for the truth with Dan Ricker. The let's go with a disclaimer off the top. The views expressed here today are not necessarily those of Champions That Wrestle, myself or Jason.
But they should be.
But and who knows? Maybe we'll have our opinions swayed on it. But that's fine. This is your time. I told people that they, just to let people know how this normally works. Normally we reach out, or somebody reaches out to us about coming on. We send almost a questionnaire so that we can learn a little bit about them. We try to do a little bit of research but I said for this one we're going to hit record and go. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So the floor is yours. Let's start with the Warhawks program. It's been a powerhouse here in the state of Maryland in Junior League. How did it get started?
Well, I was coaching a rec team through Howard County, which was the support program for the Vipers, and we were at Marys Ridge High School, and it just got to be too much of a pain in the ass to deal with the school systems. The AD over there was Gene Brown, which was a great guy. He supported us, but it came down to the principals and other people that really had the final say. And as you guys know, getting space is hard. And when you're wrestling and you're building a program, I think we had 16 kids. That beginning group, was the Warhawks and Snyder and Levesque and the Spanos, and these guys, a lot of them became state champs, and there's other names I'm sure I'm missing. But
And that was a rec team.
that was just rec,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was just starting, and you'd come over to have practice. Parents would drive over, and it'd be a half inch of snow, and they have to drive all the way home. And it just pissed people off. And what do you expect? The school system is, and the teachers union is run by liberals, and they are not worried about how tough or how much better a kid becomes as a person. They're more concerned with everybody getting a trophy and having a uniform and keeping everybody happy.
And covering their ass.
And covering their ass, right. So I understand, but the real problem was we'd come into the gym, there'd be guys in there kicking soccer balls, playing grass fairy, and I just couldn't take it. That's contrary to what wrestling is about. And then you come in and we'd lose our space because they're kicking a ball around or bouncing a basketball, which is even worse. So I decided one day, I'm telling you, I was at home and I rented a machine. I picked a spot and I just started digging, scratching out a foundation, no plans, nothing. And we built it. I didn't even know how big it was going to be. And at one point it was 50 by 50. And I said, hell with it. We're going to do it. Let's do it right. So I made it 130 by 60, something like that. And we have 2.5 mats in there.
Yeah, so it's bigger than 2 mats.
Yeah.
And when that was done and you did that, were you still part of Howard County?
For a little bit.
For a little bit, right?
And then they fought us because
Yeah.
we took the Warhawks name because of Warhawks football, and it
Yeah.
was associated because close name association. And
Yeah, because I think Warhawks football is still through Howard County Parks and
Right.
Rec, isn't it? Yeah.
But we had a battle. We had to get a lawyer and had a battle, and they lost. They had no copyright or anything for that name. I didn't really care about the name. I just wanted it because I was coaching Warhawks football.
Yeah.
And again, so we got the name and we put a big sign up and we started doing our own thing. In the beginning, for 3 years, it was a dirt floor. It was dust with mats on it, with plastic and mats. And you could see it, kind of rolled along. And kids like talking about that. Some of the older guys talk about how they wrestled on a dirt floor. And we had no ceiling, no insulation. We just blew heaters in there and got donations. And then we finally got a ceiling and insulated and got concrete 5 years ago.
Well, there is something to it where, everybody experiences obstacles, right? And then some people decide, and this is whether it be in a situation like this or even as competitors or whatever it is, the obstacles that come in the way, we can either make excuses about it, we can just give up and say, okay, we'll do it. I'll just go ahead and just accept that the obstacle wins on this one, or you find a way. And it's not like I'm gonna, you have a wall put in front of you at this point. It's not, okay, I'm not gonna walk around it. I'm not gonna climb over it. If you didn't bust through it head first, then, I don't know a better term for it. Was that how much planning went into it?
I'm telling you, I thought about it many times whenever I get frustrated. I thought about it. I said, I'm tired of the school system controlling what's happening. We're trying to do good things here. And so finally, like I said, I rented a machine and came home and started digging, and not a lot of plans, buying the mats. I remember the day I got the mats, I have a photograph. I went up to PA and they painted the mats and we came back with them on a trailer and rolled them out. It was one mat at first, and it was a big day. There was really no planning, seriously.
Now, was it it's definitely and I can appreciate this, even sometimes with the podcast, we say it's a ready, fire, aim type situation. Was it just one day? Okay, guys, we're here at practice. Any big ribbon cutting ceremony or anything like that?
No, it just showed up. I remember the first day, kids were running around the mats, goofing off, playing, Then we had practice, we rolled them out, and we had a practice. And then that was kind of that changed everything, because we could do what we needed to do. We could look, we had parent fights. We had literally fights on the mat. We had Dominic Solis's dad fought Rob Collishman, and everybody's like, oh my God, the kids. Hell with the kids. The kids are going to see a fight. One day they're going to see a fight. So what do? So I tried to make sure one guy didn't get the better of the other. So they both kind of threw a little bit and ended up on the mat, and I kind of got on top. And I don't know who hit the other one first, but the other guy didn't get a shot in. I didn't want his kid to feel like his dad got beat up, so I was faking like I was holding one guy, but I wasn't really holding him. I let him pop him once, and then I kind of broke it up. And then we explained to the kids, and you know what? Nobody died, right? Nobody said, oh my God, my kid's ruined. Guess what? They all came back. Imagine that. Imagine these peace freaks out here talking about how much damaging it is, but nobody quit. Matter of fact, it was a good lesson to realize you don't need to do that. We're family. But sometimes, if you insult someone, you might get popped in the mouth. Guess what? They're friends now. Those guys are friends, great respect. You know how many people I'm friends with in wrestling that I fought with?
Oh, sure.
And now we're fought with.
Absolutely.
And now we're friends.
Well, you've fought a couple times with Bill Smith, right?
Yeah, Bill attacked me with a chair. Think about that. We're at the counties, right? And I think it was one of the Law brothers was wrestling, and he was losing, and I was mad at Bill for whatever reason. And I sat behind his bench. And every time this Lignelli from Glenelg was clearly better, Law was younger. Every time he took him down, I'd say, whoa, the Golden Bear coach has really doing good today. And then he'd get taken down and say, Golden Bears, Coach Bill, you're really something. And I just kept chirping and chirping and chirping, right? And I love Bill. Bill was my coach. Bill Smith gave me the drive to want to coach because he loved me. In high school, I knew the guy loved me. So it's kind of a weird relationship, but as you know, he was y'all's coach, and
sure.
As you said in the other show, you weren't really my guys, his, which kind of hurt, but that's all right. And so he grabbed the chair that he was sitting in. Were you there?
No, that was before my time.
Came at me with the chair.
About it, though.
Came at me with the chair. I'm in the second row. I went back, and I was concerned because I'm a good friend with Bill getting in trouble. I couldn't get fired. I'd already been kicked out of everything, right? I caught the chair. He fell on top of me, and I grabbed him in around his head and squeezed real hard. I said, stop, man, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And he was trying to punch me and hit me. He attacked me with a chair. Guess what? Ricky didn't call the police, right? There was no police call. And guess who got thrown out? I got thrown out of the tournament.
Well, the story that I heard was that someone came over and asked if he had attacked you, and you said,
No, he was putting his finger in my face, and it must have looked like he did, or something. Like after
he
the
just
fact.
came up and he said, "Please be quiet, sir."
Well, everybody saw the chair, so I had to tell a story. I said the chair was just something Bill and I made up. I said we did that to get excitement and attention. I said he didn't really hit me with the chair for real, which he did. It hurt my feelings, put a bruise right here, and it chipped my tooth. But it's
You recovered, right?
right. Nobody got the plea. It's just ridiculous. These people out here.
So did you and Smitty? We're talking about Bill Smith. Were you guys did you guys start the Warhawks?
So yeah.
Together?
So what happened was I had this little program over there, and I heard Bill's kid was wrestling, and then Joe Thomas, whose son's at West Virginia right now, a stud. Joe was my high school teammate, and I was pissed off. I was like, "What do you mean you're wrestling in Mount Airy?" I was so pissed off. I called Bill every night, 2 a.m, 3 a.m. I tormented him. I snuck up to his house and put some rabbits and gerbils and some chickens in his house when he was on his computer. He was so dumb he didn't even see me. And they went in, and that's another story. But I tormented him until I said, "Why are you doing this?" Just like I talked to you earlier, if you're going to do this, we got to be together. So all of a sudden he decided, he showed up to practice one night. He told the parents, he said, be ready for here's what we're going to do. He brought Mike Smith, Naval Academy. He brought this Danny Murphy kid, turned to be really good, but was a better baseball player. Plana at Penn, Joe Thomas. And
Was he the head coach at Mount Airy, or he was?
Well, he was just running a little program.
Helping?
Yeah, it wasn't really. It was just like a rec thing,
Right.
I mean, they were softer than a pancake up there, but Bill was just trying to get his kid into wrestling, and so Bill came down, and all the big Mike Smith, he weighs about 400 pounds. I mean, his head weighs 80. Big giant guy, right? He's my friend, but he came down, and they loved it, and that was the beginning. And then the barn was built, and then Bill came over, and then shortly after that, Bill had to do other things, and we just kind of kept it going.
And you guys date back to the 80s, though, when he was your lacrosse coach at Glenelg. Is that correct?
Right.
And it was he wasn't involved with wrestling at that time, was he?
No.
I remember him telling stories about how you would be on the sidelines and it'd be a close game, and you'd be rooting for the other team. I hope they score so that I can go in there and be the hero. And
Well, it was no fun when you're kicking somebody's ass. If it's 10-2, what fun is that? Plus, if you're a starter, you're getting ready to get put on the bench, so other people can play.
Glenelg's pretty tough now. Were they tough
at
lacrosse back then?
Yeah, we were top 5, 6, 7. Yeah. And I remember, cheering, hoping they'd score a couple.
Yeah. Now, tell me about your wrestling days there at Glenelg. It's again, did no research for this. Was it 88? Is that when you graduated?
No, 83.
83 is when you graduated? Man, my fault.
I know.
And then tell me about the days wrestling there at Glenelg. What was it like, and what was Howard County like at that point?
Well, Oakland Mills, Steve Carnahan, one of the greatest ever. What a great guy, too. That guy had so much influence on me, and I ended up taking over when he left at Oakland Mills. But, Oakland Mills was beating everybody. And at that time, I think Cliff Kreiser and his group wrestled at Centennial, and they were decent. Mount Hebron had some guys, and, we were right there in it, but Oakland Mills was clearly, the class act. And that was kind of my nemesis. And we didn't have many guys to coach that had wrestled before, and so it was tough. We got what we could, and just we worked hard. Mm-hmm. That was kind of it. We didn't have what we do now. We didn't have places to go, and what we did. My dad would take me to St. Paul's, and the late Kenny Taylor, another one of the greatest guys ever in Maryland wrestling, great human being, would beat the shit out of me. And my dad would sit in the corner and laugh. Then he would take me to Henry Mohenrick and Tom Reese and Herwig's dad up to Frederick Community College, and they would make me cry. I'm 16, they'd beat my ass, and Dad would sit over there, beat them, boys, beat them, and no out. Unlike today, take care of little Johnny, it was beat his ass, and then the more I get mad and try to fight them, they'd all laugh. But they really molded and helped me big time. And, had I had them as coaches, I should have been a 2-time state champion. I lost my junior and senior year by a point, and both guys I had beaten or pinned during the season, but I didn't, my fault. I just wasn't prepared, and went in, thinking, it's going to be easy, and ended up losing close matches to people that I had already beaten that year, and that haunts me. That's kind of what drove me to coach.
I was gonna say, I feel like, I mean, Mackin's a state champ here, but a lot of the really good coaches I've learned have a little bit of that almost when they were wrestling, and they know how I'm assuming because when you were at Hammond in '98, technique, yeah, but and this is Smitty too, was all about the mental side of things. And that's what I think, him bringing you in, was something that we needed to get over that hump. And it had nothing to do with technique.
Right. Well, and I get accused, or, people make fun, and that's okay. I wrestled 80 matches after college football. I learned to wrestle with Henry and Tom and those guys at McDonough 2 nights a week. That's where I really learned to wrestle. And, so it was, think about it, pretty simple. The hardest sport in the world. Why and what you do, the UFC or whatever you want to, the
mixed martial arts.
Mixed martial arts, right?
Involved in it,
right?
I don't.
But
still
but
compete.
no, but I'm saying, but that's what. So the wrestlers dominate that. Well, why? They're the toughest guys in the world. I believe I heard at one point 32% or 37% of the Navy SEALs were at least high school wrestlers. There's no doubt what it does, right? We know that. You can be a little skinny guy and by hustle and muscle and hard work, not by a move, but by being tougher than the other guy, you can be successful. Now, there's plenty of place to get the technique. And I believe it was Dan Gable at a clinic, I believe, I could be wrong, that said less is more. And I stuck in my brain. If a team knows what you do, then you're coaching right. If they come in and say, watch the cradle, watch this, watch that, they know that you're being well coached because you're consistent. I've had referees tell us that. So what lasts? What lasts? Why do our kids not quit when they move on? Our kids don't quit. They talk about how hard our practice is. Nobody quits. When they go to college, they don't quit, or high school. We've had one quit in college, one. And because the toughness lasts forever. You get your technique and you drill. We drill the shit out of them, right? But the toughness, if you're not tough, tough punch in the face beats technique most of the time. It's truth. People talk about Snyder. Snyder's not a great athlete. Like if you put him vertical jump and all that, he's not like, one of these guys that's like phenomenally gifted, but his toughness, mentally, focus was, since he was little, was what made the difference. Just so that's mental toughness. And, that's why I feel like that's the difference. And that's what a lot of these guys aren't doing.
Let's talk about Snyder some, because were you his first coach? Or
no, he started with the Warriors.
Okay,
as a little kid, and his dad and I played football at Towson together.
Gotcha. Now, at what point did it become apparent you got something special on your hands?
Well, he was a big little redheaded kid, and he was probably 100 pounds at 9 or 10. So he's wrestling 13, 14-year-olds, and he had good parents, great parents, and they were like, look, whatever we got to do, and Kyle didn't care. He would wrestle anybody. And when you saw how he never said a word, our practices are brutal. I mean, brutal. Never complained. Matter of fact, one day, and you can ask Obendorf for this, he was there, the coach at Damascus, and he still will talk about that story today. Kyle stood up. They came to visit our practice and said, if you guys aren't going to work, if you're not going to bust your ass, then just go. Why be here? And he was 8th grade, I believe, or 9th grade.
Wow.
And so that's when I knew. But I remember at one of our banquets, he said, what do you want to do? And I made him get up and talk, and he said, I want to be an Olympian. And that was probably 7th grade. But I can't, look, let me just be clear. I don't want to be a fool and a phony like a lot of these coaches out here that we're going to talk about. I'm not going to take credit. Kyle Snyder was going to be great no matter where he went. Mm-hmm. Okay, he was because of that mental toughness. His mom, her family, they're unbelievable athletes, and so he has that genetic, but his just the focus. So he was going to be great no matter what. I believe, and I think if you talk to Kyle, he'll tell you that the stuff we did. I remember him telling me he went up to visit Penn State and was telling Taylor and some of these guys a story about I used to put him in the hopper and torment him, and they loved it. They loved the story. But see, he went home with tears in his eyes. Dad called me when he got home. He said, "What happened over there?" He didn't care, but he wanted to know.
Yeah.
His mom said, "Shut up, stop crying," But, and I told him laid on him and beat him up for a long time, like 50 minutes of hell. And
I remember the hopper. I don't think I was ever in the hopper. I was probably too small, but there was some.
You could punch, like the kids could punch me.
Yeah, you just had to get out. Right?
All you had to do is get
what.
away. Yep, you could punch, knee, and I could grab anything I want, shoelaces, hair, anything to hold you, and it was grueling. It was torture. But so as far as Kyle goes, look, I'm not going to be one of these guys and said, "Well, we did this and we did that." I consider him our guy, but he's a lot of people's guy, and he's just a great. Again,
but I mean, he came. I mean, I remember Smitty brought him to one of our Hammond practices.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was in 6th or 7th grade, and he just said, "Look, I got this guy. He's good."
I thought he was. Was that when he was wrestling Halper?
Yeah, I mean, he was 100.
I was there
when he was about 140 pounds.
I remember that.
And we had Josh Halper, who was a state finalist.
Yep.
And they were, so he's a 6th grader, and he's wrestling a senior in high school, and it's a good match. You know what I mean? And nothing, not cocky or anything. He just tried his best, like you said, just went after it, wrestled, wasn't afraid of anybody. But I know that, you and Bill knew that he needed to be challenged by, older and more mature kids. And, so you at least put him, so when he got to college in the Olympic stage, he was ready for that. I mean, he skipped his senior year of high school, right?
Well, he sat out. He
went to the training center.
Right.
He had already
forego it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he had already proven that he was the best kid in the country.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So why?
And I remember him wrestling Halper because I thought he was older than he was, and for some reason in my head he was in 5th grade or whatever. So I started asking what high school he was going to and stuff like that. And then when I found out how young he was, I still remember. I don't know whether it was you or Bill, but I said, man, if he keeps improving this way, I guarantee he's going to be a state champ someday. Yeah. And it's man, really set the bar high for that one. That wasn't one of my starter comments.
Went. I remember him because I think he was South Carroll district.
Right. Century, because they built the new school.
Oh, Century.
But you're right, yeah.
But he was like, yeah, he's going to be at least 2-3 times state champ. And this was 7th grade, and he's like, I don't know why those. He was like, he's going to go private, but I don't know why these, Century or South Carroll coaches aren't here trying to get him to stay at South Carroll. But his brother went to Good Counsel too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So. He started at Century, I think. I think
he went to
his brother did,
and then moved over.
Yeah.
Early on, being at Century. But so now the Warhawks start. What year did Warhawks officially begin?
2008, I believe. 18, 10, 11, yes, 2008.
But your influence coaching in Howard County dates back way.
I mean, I used to go over with Pegnotta, and Brian Chadwick was my assistant coach at Oakland Mills when he had the Vipers, and I'd go over. Every now and then they'd ask me to come over and run a practice, and so I was always involved. I coached at Oakland Mills from '88 to '92, and we had success, man. We didn't, Seidman and some of those guys on that team, and Danny Bickle, the kid that broke his arm and wrestled with a broken arm, and man, the Libs went crazy over that. I was an animal. I mean, the Libs went nuts, but we had a doctor sign that he could do it, so they really couldn't say shit about it. That was a great moment. The fact that they had to sit there and watch a kid do something that was so encouraging to others, but they thought it was, as Noggle said, repulsive, that we would do that. And but man, what a great group that was. And we went 44-4. We lost to Altoona. I got in trouble for that. We drove up there and I rented our own bus, but we lost to Altoona, PA. We lost to Bullis. We lost to a dual meet to you guys, a hate match, and you guys cheated, or Bill did. That was before you.
We weren't on the team there.
I know, I'm just kidding. No.
I think I was in 3rd grade then.
But and we lost 31-30 to Slutsky up there at Aberdeen. That was the only 4 losses with no junior. So Adam Seidman was the only junior league kid we had.
Yeah, before I had met you, I used to work out at Oakland Mills in the off season, and that you would see that sign. what was it? Big Potatoes Rise to the Top. Dan Ricker. I was like, who the fuck is Dan Ricker? What's the origin behind that?
So my other great influence besides Ed Evans and Bill Smith and Steve Carnahan, Fred Bullock was a great influence on me. Another great person. My coach, my college football coach, Phil Albert, used to tell us that big potatoes rise to the top. And, what do you want to be, a big potato or a small potato? It's indicative of life.
Right.
It's obviously contrary to what these libs that run the Howard County or Maryland public schools believe, but it's indicative of life. So, and the story was in Idaho, where they had potatoes, it's real hilly and rough. And back in the day, they would drive the trucks and they'd put the potatoes in a bushel basket. And so they didn't call the potatoes out, the big ones, the size, that stuff. They would just ride them because usually it was so many miles over these rough dirt roads. And the more it would shake, the small potatoes would end up through the cracks and the big ones would be on top. So when he got to the market, they could separate them easily. And so the moral of the story is that the harder the road, right, the harder you work, the more you suffer, the harder people are on you. Instead of crying like everybody's doing today about everything, you just shut up and just stay with it. And if you're a big potato, if you can withstand it, you're going to be on the top when you get there. And all the little sissies and the flute players and all those guys are going to sift to the bottom. And it was just a great kind of analogy that I got from Coach Albert.
Now, obviously a lot of influences on you and kind of making the creation that we know now as Dan Ricker. Would you say there was one person that stands out above the rest, that he's the greatest influence on you and become the coach that you are?
Well, Bill made me want to coach because I knew that he loved me. Now, he threw me off after I lost the state tournament. Lacrosse started, and I was in such a bad way for losing that I was an ass for 2 weeks. I'm out there knocking our guys down and not, hitting our guys, trying to just hurt people. I was just miserable because I lost that tournament. It's ultra competitive, and it just I couldn't shake it. So one day he threw me out, said, get out of here. I knocked the goalie into the goal, and he said, get out of here. So I went up and stood in the parking lot and threw bottles and broke them until he let me come back down. He figured he's going to get in trouble for me breaking the stuff or let me come in, so he let me come back the next day. But,
how many bottles did you have?
Well, I went around, I had to search and find them. Back then it was no plastic. Right, that was before the libs took care of the glass, and we still had glass. Right, imagine that.
Really, plastic is a liberal.
Well, the turtle's not killing any turtles, right? Or that spotted owl's not eating any bottle caps. But so here's the thing. Ed Evans was a Marine guy. He was my wrestling coach in high school, football coach. Dennis Cole was a great influence for me. He was my high school football coach. But obviously, my father, Dad was tough, man. There was no go to your room. You get cracked in the mouth, and if you talk back, you got hit more. And that's the way it didn't bother. I don't have any hard feelings, And but Phil Albert, my college football coach, never said a cuss word. Guy never said a cuss word. Coach Albert has changed so many lives. You don't even know. Guys that had it rough, man. It went through hell. And his influence, and I would run. If he said go punch the other coach in the mouth, I would have run right over during the game and done it. Now think about it: no yelling, no screaming, never said a cuss word. But you just wanted to please him, and that was the difference. I wanted to make him proud of me. Still to this day, I want to know if he's proud, kind of like you do with your dad, right? That's a natural thing, And I remember your dad, one of the nicest, greatest people ever. Talk about unselfish.
Sure.
Your father was just always there to help. And so those kind of people, and so Coach Albert was probably and Bill,
Nice. So now, in Howard County, you're at Oakland Mills there for a little bit. I'm hoping that you're at Owings Mills sometime, but
I'll be there.
That's for a different day. And then I know that you were at Hammond for the '98 season, the state championship season that Jason and I were a part of. You were also at Howard for a little bit,
right
in the middle there. Was there anywhere else that you?
Well, I was at Howard for a year, and we won a regional tournament that year. We beat South Carroll when they had Chenoweth and I can't remember the other real good guy's name, but. They were good. We beat them in the regional tournament. Howard never won a regional tournament in 75 years. First school in the county. Never won one, I don't think.
Was that 90?
That was, no, that had to be.
91?
Well, no, because I was at Oakland
Early
Mills still.
90s, right?
No, that was Chris Spaulding and JC and Eric Paskin, some of those.
I think that's 96.
Yeah, that was
isn't it?
96, right before I came to Hammond. And one day we're there and we're wrestling at Oakland Mills, and I still had the feelings from when Mike Bennett at Oakland Mills beat me in the tournament, who I'd beaten so many times, and beat me in the state finals 3-2. And so they put, some of the guys were kidding around, and they put mustard in my seat, and I had my black pants on. I was all dressed up, sat in it, which I didn't care, but they were just playing, And then John Lowe, the coach at that time at McDaniel, was in the top row announcing. Did a really good job. He had the microphone. He would announce a match, and so they got to the heavyweight, and we're wrestling at Oakland Mills. I'm at Howard now, and that was my old place, and Howard's never won anything, and too much, and it was come down to the heavyweight match. Brian Neal was wrestling, and he goes, "Well, it's going to be tough coming down the line for Dan Ricker. This is old nemesis, and just always had a hard time with Oakland Mills," and it burned my ass, and I don't know what happened, but I just saw him sitting up there with that microphone, and all of his little tough guy wrestlers from McDaniel were there, right? And I went running up, and I got right to him, and I got him right around the shirt collar, and I was pushing him against the back of the wall, and all the wrestlers were jumping on my back, and my parents were fighting. It was a big fight right in the bleachers. What did it do? It made more people want to come to matches. Didn't make anybody not want to come to matches. They went nuts over it. Didn't hurt. Nobody got hurt. So I was saying, if you say one more thing, I'm going to shove that mic up your ass. Well, it was on, so it went over the whole thing, over the loudspeaker. Well, I had to go. They didn't like that very much over there at Howard
That's
High.
what did it?
Well, that was one of the, I pretty much did it.
Really?
Yeah.
Brian Neal used to tell a story. I'm going to butcher it, and I apologize for it. But I guess when they were wrestling, when the dual meet was supposed to happen, you went up at lunch and said, "Hey guys, get your, let's all get in the cars. I got you guys a pass. It's all good. We got you a pass. I talked to the principal already. Let's go and just go out the back door. Trust me." And you went into Oakland Mills and locked them into a locker room and made them listen to Eye of the Tiger for like 2 hours on loop.
Well, they sat in there. They listened to the George Patton speech, and that one and a couple other things, but they just had to sit in there, and we locked it, and they couldn't get out. And the Oakland Mills people were like, "What are they doing?" And they, for some reason, the principal at Howard didn't like that either. I mean, what the hell's wrong with these people? It didn't hurt any. The kids loved it. They weren't going to pay attention in school anyway. The last 2 periods, they were thinking of the match. So why sit there? So I tried to get them over, and they put it this way: how come all the stories we tell as adults are the people that were hard on us? We don't tell stories about the teacher we got over on, or that was nice, or let us have the easy way out, or sent us to the room instead of beating us. We talk about the people that were hard on us. If that's not important, if that doesn't have an effect on you, then why is that what we talk about when we're sitting around drinking a few beers with our friends?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
These people are crazy, man.
No, obviously our first introduction was to you was at Hammond, and how many times do we talk about it still to this day?
Oh, sure. No, yeah, Ricker stories are still coming up. And we were only with you for 1 year and still had the influence. And is there anything that you did that you while you were coaching that you regret doing, or that in today's day and age you wouldn't, or are you exactly the same?
Well, it's hard to talk the way I do and call people out and to be that way and not expect it to happen back to you. Now I'm getting older, so I'm going to get beat up soon if I keep doing it. But so here's what I regret. What I regret is that I didn't thread the needle a little better, because there would have been many, many state champs. We would have beaten many, many people. More kids would have been exposed to what I think are things that they don't get to see everywhere else. I don't act like a normal teacher or adult, and it's refreshing for a kid to see somebody that loves them, but works them harder than anybody, and they want to come back. So yeah, I have to say that not really an incident. There probably was something, I'm sure, obviously, that I regret the fact that I didn't play enough by the play the game enough to skate through to keep coaching, because
You're talking about on the high school level?
yeah, on the high school level, because we would have beaten it. It sounds arrogant, but I don't really care, because the system works. I didn't invent the system. I stole it from people better than me, but the system works. And I've told Waddy many times, I'm getting bored. I'm letting JC, one of my guys, we all know JC, and he's a guy that I kind of took care of a little bit and came up, and JC was
Absolutely.
rough, right? Up, and he had a rough time. But look, he's this him, and just the people love him, and because of the effort and the time. So my point is that you to miss those opportunities and those kids that are out there like that. I could have done a better job and been around more for that.
Sure. I think that we all can say that in some,
Yeah,
everybody that's coached for a
probably.
long
But
time.
I mean, you can also argue like you being you, that's what makes you you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Is sort of not following those rules. I mean, Mackin can speak to the same sort of thing because, kind of went through the same situation at Hammond, and I
Sure.
think maybe kind of learned from, those now at Oakland Mills. But so you said you're getting bored. Why? Because you guys are winning all the time?
Yeah, I mean, look, it
Well,
frustrates me. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, we were talking, you're giving me a hard time for helping out with the Vipers and stuff like that, but I mean, wouldn't you like to have like a challenger?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
the Outlaws or whoever it's going to be, to make it. We were recording about we were talking about the lacrosse thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, just you want the other team to score a little bit, right, to get up there.
Makes
so
it
you
fun.
Yeah.
No doubt. So that's one of those catch-22 things, right? That you wish that you did, or you think about what keeps you going, and it pisses me off. Here's what bothers me. It bothers me so bad. Instead of these guys bitching and complaining about us and that we cheat and we recruit, why don't they just work harder,
Right.
and get better and come and beat us? Because if somebody would beat us, then I would get it. There'd be some hatred. I'd get into it again and want to go beat them back.
Right. So I mean, you listen to Nagel's thing. I mean, he said that, right? He said the Warhawks has made them want to work harder.
Right. So
Right?
So I'll respond to that a couple if I could.
Go ahead.
Let me respond to John's stuff.
Yeah.
And John and I are good. John's a good person. He great family. Look at his kids. I've never seen one of his kids do anything disrespectful. Matter of fact, they don't even know they're in the gym. They just go wrestle, and
Yep.
the older one is just kicking ass. So you have to be honest, right? I didn't always get along. I didn't always understand, just like you didn't understand me. First of all, the state tournament, they have just as many wrestlers as we. The fact that if you can't get more kids to participate, that's your fault. Get your kids in it if it's your program. Secondly, that's bullshit that people say about this scoring. You score one kid per weight. Well, the Warhawks have 2 kids in a weight, and there's 2. The fact that we have 2 kids in the finals in any weight is despicable. All of them, whether it's in all the programs. The fact that we have 2 that make the finals in a state tournament, come on, when you were coming up, that never happened. Not one program. Maybe it did, but it didn't happen much. It happens 2 or 3 weight classes. And we only get scored on one of them. This year, we didn't even take 2 of our best kids to the state tournament and still won by 200 points. That's absurd. And I hear the Punisher up there saying, and I've heard him say it before, and again, I'll give him credit. I'll give him credit because he's one of the few that doesn't have a kid in it, and he does it every year, and he's got a nice program. And you know what? He and I were friends until he didn't back me up in the MJWL, and that's what caused the problem, and that's why I've talked a little bit of shit, but we can talk about that or not talk about it either way. But guess what? He does a job. He's there every day. He's doing right by the kids, and they have a really nice program. So I'll leave that at that. As far as John goes, or other people, they score one kid.
Yeah.
So how in the world how can we be winning by 200 points? every year.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you have a kid there, they still got to win matches,
Yeah,
right?
right. They have to win
So-
matches, and plus we don't get any points you only get placed for your highest placed kid.
Mm-hmm.
So now, yeah, we knock a few kids off, which helps, right? But not 200 points, 300 points, 150, and so and then they say the recruiting, right? I got to talk about this. It's such crap. It's such a cop out to make people feel good about themselves or not recognize what they're not doing. Recruiting, what I'll go up to the parents and say, look, I'm gonna give you some money if you come down to the Warhawks.
Well, look, I mean, recruiting, it's funny because we know in all, just even on the high school too, let's be honest, recruiting, or if you have a kid and you're thinking about leaving to go to the program, say you're on some other program and you're the best and you're like, he's not getting challenged or something like that. You might come and talk to you or a coach or JC talking about, but probably what you're going to do is talk to the parents of kids in that program. So, to me, the recruiting probably comes more from the parents, but it's also just that. I mean, that's one thing that we found this year, with the Vipers is, yeah, we can go to these, we've been trying to go to the rec teams and being like, hey, yeah, you should come up to travel, blah, 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 blah. The coach, it's our parents then say, yeah, they're doing this right. They're ready. They need to come into this practice. You know what I mean? So to me, it's if you build a good program and you have that parent support, they sort of sing the praises and then they follow through with that.
Absolutely.
So, but you're also not going to turn a kid away.
No, who would? Again, I've heard that from Punisher, right? I think that's Art Simonig's cousin, I think. But the Punisher,
He's got a lot of Facebook names, I think.
Okay,
I can't keep in track.
Yeah, so here's said, well, your parents are more supportive than ours. Now, come on, man. That's
He
part
said
of being
that
a
to
leader.
you?
Many times, not just to me. That we don't have our parents aren't willing to do what yours are. Come on, yeah, that's part of being a leader. You got to get people. It's not like you said. Talk to the parents. It's not the kids. The kids don't drive.
No, absolutely.
Right?
It's
So
and look, I mean, you're pulling. I mean, maybe this is a good transition. You've seen in the past, at least I've noticed, a lot of Warhawks going to private schools.
we give them, and I'm a public school guy, but we've given opportunities because of what we're doing there. I don't have a kid in it.
Right.
Because of those opportunities, it's changing people's lives.
Sure.
Right? Ask Solus, he'll tell you. And so I do get mad when sometimes the parents don't come back and recognize, I've had some words where what we did, because that's all I get out of it. I mean, it costs me money to run the program. I lose $500 to $1,500 a year, and these people are going to bitch about what we do when I can't ever go home to my house and have privacy. I can't ride up without a bunch of kids around, which is fine. Sometimes my driveway's destroyed, my grass is destroyed, and then people want to talk shit about what we do and what we won't do. Hell with those guys, man. They're phonies too, because guess what? Besides a few of us, one of the best is Bob Burkhart. Bob Burkhart, and he and Waddy hate each other, but that's another great hate relationship right behind Gabrielson and Kiesling. But Bob had the Falston team, gave us matches. We went to overtime dual meets with them, and Bob didn't have a kid in it. I don't have a kid in it. Here's the problem with these junior. What happens, to answer kind of your question? They all have kids in it. Kiesling's going to come. He's a great guy, by the way. Watch how good they're going to get. And all around his little kids' weights, they're going to be great. And then when his kids go to high school, it's going to fade off. Gabrielson's doing the same thing, right? His kids go, it's going to fade off. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they choose to be.
You got
stay in
Yeah,
it.
we don't know. I mean,
They might.
Well, you got to have some sort of secession plan, and I think that's what we've noticed with the Vipers, right? So, early on when Pagnotta and all that, and it came up, and then there was kind of a lull there. I think they were pretty good with like Corey Daniel and Jack Daniels. Like that was sort of like the hype before, the Warhawks came along, and then, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like you guys dismantled that. I mean, as a good thing.
So how did we dismantle it?
Well,
I'm not being
no.
smart.
I mean, well, I would say there was that elite group of kids that needed to be pushed harder, and they weren't getting it there. And so they went there. And since you guys, you know what I mean? Am I wrong, or what do you think? Because at least, I don't know about now, because it's probably not even fun, but growing up, like coming up, you wanted to beat the Vipers, correct? Smitty still says, I
went after him.
Yeah.
But that's what we wanted. When Colot was here, we chased his teams everywhere to try to get them, and we finally, chased them down. But wait a minute. The 16 kids I started with, what was elite about that? And I'm not being a dick to you. I'm just saying, what was elite? Did all of a sudden we just get this influx of these great kids? Snyder wasn't there in the beginning. He came there this third year, second year, whatever. It was nothing elite. And so it became because we did something that people wanted. And we, little by little, we used to try to go wrestle the Vipers A team with our rec team. Todd Del Tufa, he'd have a fit. He's whining and crying about everything anyway. So we'd go over there. Next thing you know, one of our first or second year kids is giving his kid a match. They're not going to beat their kids. By the next year, we're beating them. Next year, and then it was over. They ran it right into the fucking ground. And so, not Chadwick, but, and so what was elite? Then, guess what happens? We have this barn built. Well, before that, Bill comes down and they come to a practice. They had their own program. They dismantled. They left the Mount Airy program. There was no Mount Airy program. He came and joined up with us. Why? Because the parents liked the product that they saw. It's no, what do you mean recruiting? So get off their asses and not worry about just your own kids. Build a powerhouse and say, we're going to beat everybody. And then I can get interested again and we can battle back and forth and I have to drive to PA and Jersey to get beat.
Now, are you saying like some of the better junior league, the Wolfpack and the Rampage or two that you talked about earlier, you're predicting that happens, or if we'll
just watch the flow. Pegnata got out, the Vipers dropped a little bit, then they kind of came back.
So your history is suggesting that because Kiesling and Gabrielson, both exceptional coaches. Kiesling I don't interact with that much now. Jill and Jason I do sporadically throughout. They've helped me in a big way throughout the years. Like the Franklin Fall Showcase, and it does seem like they have a genuine love for everybody in their program. So I don't know if that's going to help and that's going to allow it to continue to be successful, or whether when their children graduate, somebody you're saying somebody's going to need to take over.
Yeah, it's gonna, and typically it's going to be a parent. Look, let me just tell you, those guys were great wrestlers. I coached against Gabrielson. And I was at Oakland Mills when he wrestled, and the junior league coaches. The truth is, there's better junior league coaches than most of the high school coaches. These guys we're talking about are great coaches. They have a lot of technique. Gabrielson's a good corner guy. Kiesling's a stud, man. Kiesling wants to fight Gabrielson. That's another perfectly good. That could be a great fundraiser. I don't know what the problem is, but we should put that together because. And I know Kiesling and I get along. We talk all the time.
Do you think it's because they're both kind of down there?
Well, they were together, and then something happened, and they broke up. And I've heard
was
they
Kiesling
were together.
Part of Southern Maryland?
Yeah, they were all together, and then something broke it up. I don't know what it was. I wish I did. Everybody wonders what it was. I sat in a meeting and had Kiesling say, "Look, let's go." He challenged. He said, "Let's go right now." He's on a speaker because it was a remote meeting. He said, "We can go anytime." I'll give Kiesling credit. He was ready to roll, and they should either fight or make friends and be nice. Two dogs on a chain next to each other will bark for 10 straight years. Cut the chain, they fight. Next night they're sleeping in the same doghouse. It's such bullshit. So here's my point, and I don't know what. Look at Gabrielson's son. That kid's a great kid, man. That kid doesn't bother anybody. Polite. His wife's involved, man. She's a great lady. They're
Absolutely.
Good. That's not my point. I think, from what I hear, Jason's has some hatred for the Warhawks and us. And I've had his kid on our team when we needed them. Not his kid, but his kids. And they can wear whatever they want. He forbids to let them wear his kid wear a Warhawk singlet which is ridiculous. But
if he has a kid and they're representing, he prefers they represent his program.
That's fine. But if we're wrestling in a dual meet and we need a kid, it's a Warhawk team in a dual meet.
Yeah.
Where if they have to borrow one of my kids for Wolfpack, I don't care if they wear a singlet. I have nothing to fear because anybody that comes to our room is going to come back. They have something to fear. Our kids can go to their room whatever, man. Nobody's leaving, but people don't want them coming to our practice because when they see what goes on, there's something different. And when they see it, they want to come back. If you love your kid, and any kid that's not in that room is getting cheated. I don't care what anybody says. Look at the numbers, how many ranked kids there are. And the last thing I'll say, I understand, this is what I understand, the reason Jason's so angry towards us, from what I've heard, was that we were at a tournament and he kind of had a crush on me and wanted me to give him a kiss. And we were sitting at this bar talking, everybody was talking, and I said no. And ever since then, he's had hard feelings. Because I don't know if he wanted the French kiss or just kiss or what, but he wouldn't. And now I'm this villain. I just didn't particularly want to do anything. And next thing you know, somebody's playing a skin flute and all hell breaks loose. I just didn't want anything to do with it. And now I'm this ass. I don't get it. But anyway, that'd be a great fundraiser for Maryland Wrestling, is to have those two get this thing settled.
Well, we're here focusing on the Warhawks, and hopefully we can even have Keith and Gabrielson on here sometime. Those are,
they've been some highly requested
coaches
as well.
Two great coaches.
Yep.
And really doing, I'm not, my finger's not on the pulse, as I've admitted, within the junior league, and I still see the impact that both of them are having. So, and whatever the truth is to your story at the bar or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just what I heard. So
No.
I just want things to get better.
Okay. So, but we're here talking about the Warhawks. Now, I did want to touch on the recruiting part a little bit, because I do think it's unfair. Sometimes whenever you hear a kid joining a program and somebody recruiting, it's always the coaches are out like in the middle of the night, like trying to steal the kids or something like that. They never talk about the kid or the athlete or the parent recruiting the coach. And I feel like there is probably a lot of that where parents see what you're doing and see, what you guys are building there, and they say, hey, that's the best thing for my child, or what their opinion is the best way to prepare their child, and they bring them to you guys. How often is it that you get a parent contacting you about coming over and joining the program?
Lately, they contact JC and our other coach. We have great coaches in that room, man. Our new addition is Brian Leitzel, that left the Vipers, and he said he wished he'd have done it years ago. Nothing against the Vipers. I'm just saying it changed his kid in 1 year.
Well, look, and Kilo will tell you this too. Like, the Vipers were in a tough spot. You know what I mean? And this is our first year doing it, so it's going to take a while to change.
Well, let me answer that though, Jason. So here's the deal. I was giving you shit earlier, right? And my feelings were hurt because you've never been to the barn, but.
I've been in the barn.
You have?
Well, I think back when.
Hell yeah.
When we were.
Done.
I came when Smitty, like with the Snyder middle school.
Oh, okay.
Era, like
Sorry.
back when but I think that's
so
when it was
long,
still
though.
dirt.
He could have come back by now.
Brian,
he never sticks his head.
I agree with you, and you're a peacekeeper. And the fact that you would say that says you're probably right. I should be hurt. But he'll come visit at some point, right?
Well, don't hold your breath, right?
Well, here's my point
Of
that I
course
was
I'll
getting
visit.
to,
Yeah,
the recruiting.
Of course I'll visit.
So imagine this. You have a child. He's 6 years old. This window, right, is closing every minute before now in 9th grade. That's our job, to prepare him for high school. Not me and my son, and nothing wrong with the guys coaching their kids. Like we talked about already, great coaches. But don't give us shit when I'm doing this and I don't have anybody involved, and I'm paying money every year to run this program that I don't have. And this window's closing. So you're over at Vipers. I'll use you as an example, or Leitzel. And you have this kid, you're like, well, we're going to build a program and beat the Warhawks, which is great. I wish it would happen. But then you're like, how many years will that take? Now my kid will be a 7th grader. So what's he going to miss until we get to that point and have the partners to make my son, who I love, ready? Or you can come over and you go to the state tournament and you see 15 Warhawks in the finals and 2 guys wrestling each other. So as a parent, there's no recruiting. What are you going to do?
Right.
And,
so
and
you get
wrestle.
more, and you probably get more kids coming like 6th and 7th
Now we
grade.
do.
Right.
Because,
and that's the difference, because this is so me and Joe, we run the elementary team. It's separate from kind of the older thing. So we have some 2nd graders, mostly 3rd and 4th graders, because his son is a 3rd grader this past year. So that's what we have a long-term thing. So I hope I hope you stick around for the next couple of years.
Well,
Because I think we got a 3-year plan.
Well, I want to start working with the elementary for that reason, because I see what Kiesling's doing down there, because he's got little kids, so you know they're going to be tough. I hope John stays in it. I don't know if he's going to when his son leaves, but potentially if and I know this sounds bad, but if they would, I've told Waddy I'll help tell them the formula to build this program. There's a formula I can tell you, and it'll work. It'll work. Look, most of the kids we've had, people say we recruited. Bullshit. Look at the names that have won state championship. They were with us from the beginning. And yeah, we get some influx of kids, and everybody's going to take them because the 3 kids around them get better. The workout group was Meyer Shapiro, Richard Federlin, Ryan Athey. Man, I'm missing some good ones. This kid, Duncan Christensen, would drive all the way from Northern Virginia 2 nights a week. The Cracker kids would drive 2 nights a week from the program out there and drive to our practice through that traffic. That workout group. I left out a stud, and I feel horrible, and I'll think of it. Those guys are beating the shit out of each other every day. And look how good they are. Now again, Meyer's the most talented kid I've ever coached. The most physically talented kid I've ever coached.
More than Snyder?
Physically talented, by definitely. Physical, raw ability, no doubt. No doubt.
And the transition to high school seems to be going really well.
It does. It does. And he's gotten a little mental toughness in the way, and he's getting there, and they're doing a great job.
So how do you guys set up right now? Because obviously there's some serious junior league studs. Not everybody's that level. When someone is new coming into the sport, so you guys have a rec team, or how does it position? Because you came from the Howard County, and this is something that we're fighting, is the whole rec clinic travel thing seems to be it just kind of scares people, whereas up in Pennsylvania it's more you just join a team, right? And you're maybe a novice for a year or two, and then you just get thrown to the wolves. So I'm assuming a first-year guy isn't coming in and practicing with the Shapiros. And
so here's the thing. So you just said in Pennsylvania you get thrown to the wolves, and are they arguably the best state in the country?
Not
Sure.
even arguably.
So why would we even doubt it? Why do we get ridiculed for throwing them to the wolves? Here's the difference. You look at these guys like Leitzel and some of these other guys where they came from, PA guys. You remember the practices we had at Hammond. You have to love them. Think about how hard this is. This shit's hard. You're getting beat up. You can't breathe. The guy's got a tight waist. Forget a headlock, a tight waist. And if mom's sitting over there shoving a sub in her mouth, and she's screaming, "Get up!" These women need to stop. Sit in the fucking bleachers. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then the sissy men that want to act hard. If you're going to be hard, be willing to fight in the parking lot. If you're not, be a nice guy, right? Like I said, I'm going to get beat up soon because I'm just getting old. But here's the point. It's hard. So if you love them, it's okay to go to, John Nagel was talking about McDonough duels. It's okay to go there and lose 8 matches. Corey Butts is an example that comes to mind. He went to McDonough duels first year and got the shit kicked out of him, went 0-8, and I could go down the list. Solis got his ass beat in the beginning.
But you're saying from the beginning, thrown to the wolves.
Well,
and I'm sure they're going to lose some of them.
Okay, so first thing,
and if that's just hey, this sport's not for you, or
no,
what?
Absolutely not. Some of the soft kids, and I kid around, but some of these little Jewish kids I had, the Friedmans at Oakland Mills, nice little Jewish family, the Kolishmans, the Kolishman, the younger one could have been the best ever. Noah was as tough as anybody ever coached, and went to St. Paul's.
They went to St. Paul's.
Yeah, and his son's at Michigan, and just his dad did everything for our program. Just a great kid, and family. So here's the point. Look how nasty they became. So no, you don't throw them to the wolves literally that way. We have this Mid-Maryland League. First thing, the Howard County thing's great, but it's you need to move out as quick as you can. Okay, the Mid-Maryland is for our beginners. That you can't take a kid that's new and he comes from this middle-class family, he's never been beat up or punched in the mouth, and throw him out there and get choked and goat roped all day long. So
Right.
what you do is we go to Mid-Maryland, which is pretty darn good. Got 500 kids in it, and they get their feet wet. Madison system, they get 4 or 5 matches, 12 o'clock, they're out. One night a week, they practice with the big guys, so they get beat up. Friday nights and Saturday mornings and Sunday and Tuesday and whatever night, they get to come in with their own group, and so they can win a little bit. Because, you don't get any better getting beat up every minute. You have to be able to do a move. So you get beat up, you see where you need to go, then I make the old kids help them a little bit, right? These guys come back and help them, and then they're like, man, it encourages them. And that's the formula. And then you say, look, kid's pretty athletic, we're going to go to McDonough-Doles, and he's going to get thrashed. But then you put your arm around him. Snyder's little brother and I had a big talk. He was ready. He blew up. He was ready to quit. Jack Parr at Maryland right now. I remember sitting in the corner. He's crying. It was a horrible day. And we've had these talks. And if you love them, it's okay to get beat. Because the guy that's pushing them all week has your arm around him and looking right in the eye. And the kid's like, I want to make you happy, like I wanted for my coaches. So they want to wrestle for you. And so you cultivate that. They see where they have to go, which is reality, right? We don't want to hide and, let's be nice. Every now and then to give them a taste of it. And then we go to Mid-Maryland, which is still pretty good. And then we go to a couple novice tournaments. We don't let them go to the other stuff. Then the next year, and if they're more athletic, then we kind of move them up quicker. And I come in and I'm kind of looking, and these guys, these coaches I have out there are watching, and then we kind of move them through, and they get better so fast.
Are your serious studs even wrestling in that Mid-Maryland, or
No, because
no?
then
So,
again,
I mean, let's talk about this, because Warhawks was in the Anne Arundel League, then the MJWL.
right.
What happened?
So the Anne Arundel League, which was run by the Simonig, which I guess he was part of it, and just didn't want anybody to get any tougher and do anything. But the head guy, the head phony over there was John Ruland. I mean, talk about softer than a pancake. Like, for some reason, he thought I was going to try to beat him up. He weighs 120 pounds. We'd leave a tournament, and he'd have guys. I remember one time he got a couple guys to walk out in the parking lot like, are you kidding me? And so we started having 2 kids from Warhawks in the finals of the Anne Arundel League. We took it over. And instead of them saying, let's get better, right? Let's get them out. It's ridiculous. Contrary to Pennsylvania and Ohio and Jersey, right? Contrary to what it takes to be good. Contrary to what Bill did at Hammond, to what you guys went through in your practices. Contrary to all of it. It's soft bullshit. Again, so what happened? They had a meeting. We went down, and they made us leave the room. It was Bill Smith and me and Matt Crawford. They made her had a vote, and they all voted to get us out of the league. Now, things happened. There's things I did and said that I probably shouldn't have, but nobody was getting beat up. I wasn't putting my hands on anybody.
We're talking
And so they kicked
about
us out.
the incidents at matches or tournaments.
Yeah,
or
like again, I can't stand. You get a coach that's he's over there and he's puffing up, right? I don't care if he's 6'5" or 5 foot or 4'12", right? He's puffing up, and you're like, what? You get tired of the looks, so you say something. Calm down, big guy. I don't want you to beat anybody up. Now, I'm just trying to fuck around a little bit, and next thing you know, they go tell. He confronted me. You got to be kidding.
You think now it's more like your reputation too?
Well, part of it was that, but nobody got touched. I mean, I would go out and it'd be okay if you went out and had a fight, because we'd probably be friends. It's truth. So that's what happened in Anne Arundel. I mean, that guy Ruland was just the opposite. He should have been coaching grass fairy soccer, not part of wrestling. But the point is, they got us out, and it didn't help their league. Look at it. The call, look how tough the call was. John takes his team over, and they're kicking ass. And Mid-Maryland, Mitch Miller will tell you, he sat with me. We went over. He'll tell you what we did, a formula to build a program. So then we go to MJWL, and that's where the Punisher. And he had said something about us coming, and all of a sudden we're in these meetings, and half of them were like, yeah, we want to get better. By having us there, we have 2 teams. And all the dual meets, guess what? We didn't even bring our best kids because it'd be too much crying. Plus, it wouldn't be any good for us. We didn't. For the tournament at the end, we did, to give our kids that were going to McDonough-Doles and VAC And like the Federlands and Shapiro's, they weren't going to those dual meets. So we did it with our B kids, right? Beat everybody's ass. And like, you're cheating. No, this kid's a second-year wrestler. They couldn't get it.
Yeah,
couldn't get it.
Because the thing that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, like I said, first year, there's all these weird kind of rules and like, oh, like you're having a rec kid here, or like, so what was it? What were they accusing you of? Having like kids from other teams or what?
No, you couldn't. And our kids come to practice. Look, younger.
Right, but if a kid, so I mean, you're not going to turn anybody away. If a kid's coming from, I don't know, name a team, Navy or whatever,
right,
and practicing with you, but also practicing with Navy.
No, I tell them, ask every one of them. And I'll tell you this, if anything I say here, they talk, and anybody out there listening finds out that it's phony or it's contrary to the truth, call me a coward at the next wrestle match and I'll sit down and apologize to them. Okay? So I'm putting that out. Fact check. Look, the kids are getting better quicker. Ryan, the kids are getting better quicker because they're in the room one day a week with kids like Federland and Shapiro and Budak and these guys, and they're getting beat on, and they're getting helped too. After they beat them up, they help them. So and then the next day they're wrestling kids at their level. So they get better quicker. Plus, their coaches love them, and we push them, but we love them. At the end of practice, everybody hugs. They're like, it's an emotional thing. If you look at that video that's out, you'll see the kids come hugging after practice. It's because they're doing the hardest thing in the world. And so to answer your question, when these kid that they've never seen comes up and starts beating people, they say, you're cheating. Same thing I just said. Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, what can I do better? These weirdos want to point the finger and try to get you in trouble and get you out. Instead of saying, how do you do that? And never once, and Noggle talked about this, never once ever have I not opened those doors to everybody. Lydell Henry brought some kids down from Beat the Streets a couple times this year. What's his name over in Lawback brought some kids in this year. It's open always. How do people say this stuff? And they wonder why our kids are getting better, because I'm bringing fresh partners every day. You know?
Sure.
And so it makes them better. So then what do? Instead of beating us, they try to get us out. And that's what pissed me off about MJWL.
And there is, like, you see that going on, like, in other, I just remember a couple of years ago, it was Baltimore County, as far as the educational standards, public school wasn't as high as, the rest of the state or whatever it was. So they looked at, where are kids having issues? And it was turning in homework was killing kids' grades, and classroom behavior. So they made up a rule. Yeah, rather than how can we do this, they say, okay, hey, teachers, you need to make homework optional now. And it's like, it's not, and I'm not involved in this situation, so I don't know, the details other than what you're telling me today. But it's crazy to me that when, rather than, okay, that's like saying, my kids are notoriously bad on bottom, and that's like me saying, hey, this match, how about we don't wrestle on the mat, we only wrestle on our feet this time, or something. Rather than trying to focus on the problem at hand and improving upon it, you try to circumvent it, so a way to make it easier for you. Whether that's going on in your situation, I don't know. I'm not the one to say, I'm not there, but according to you, it's what it sounds like.
Well, I can be, yeah. Look, Ryan, I know both of you guys, and you guys are both tough. You worked your ass off. Never remember ever you guys complaining in practice. You were a little tiny guy, and he was hyper as shit. I mean, there's something wrong with him, and I'm not sure what it is, but he's a step away from something. I'm not sure, but I didn't care. I remember telling you to twist Hamper's leg off. Remember, I said, break his ankle in that state meet. His mother was sitting there taking pictures. I didn't know it. She hated me. Now we're friends, but Brian remember hearing it. You remember that? And I was like, just twist his legs. I thought that they thought they were hot shit. And like, and Hamper's another one. I mean, that guy, you're not going to find a better coach. Why were they good? You know why they were good? Because the kids liked Brian, because they knew Brian loved them. So the kids wanted to go there, and he got all this criticism, the same stuff we're talking about. He got all this criticism because kids from wherever wanted to go there. Why do they want to go there? Because he's a good person. He knew the sport, but more, they knew they cared. So they wanted to wrestle for him. And look what he built. Same shit. So back to, look, man, there's no cheating. This whole recruiting thing, people come because they want to be there. This room has been open to everybody. And I know John was talking about having a private facility. My thing is, and it's just a different philosophy. Like I said, they have a great program. They really do. I'm not just saying that to be. They have a really good program. And like John. Well, anyway, so I open it to the high schools. Obendorfer used to bring his guys over. We have great high school work. You should have seen that room. What's his name up in his kids wrestling at Maryland now? Doug McCosey. Great. What a great family that is. He'd bring his kids down. Brooks would come for 3 summers. Brooks would come down all summer and wrestle with us. The Ferrari brothers, you know them,
Sure.
nationally ranked.
Yeah.
Ferrari brothers would come any chance they were near Maryland. They'd come into our practices.
They're
Dad,
back in Texas. They're
yeah,
in New
they're
Jersey
everywhere,
for a
right?
while
They
now.
fight, and they're great people, good Americans. They fight, and he does not like a Democrat. I mean, good, strong Americans, these Ferraris. So,
What does that have to do with anything?
what has to do a lot of it, and I can explain. That's the problem. When we get to the part, what's wrong with wrestling? How does Maryland take the next step? I'll answer that.
Okay.
Can I finish? I mean, you tell
You
me.
can finish what you. Hey,
I'm gonna-
look,
you
the
tell-
floor is yours. I just don't know. I really try to not be political whatsoever. But no, go ahead. The
You
floor
have
is-
to, because they control shit. But here, I got you. So you look at these kids. You look at this this Nick Feldman, ranked number 1 right now. He's been to the barn many times for PA. Brooks, Brooks and I started. It's just like I said. I called him up and gave him a bunch of shit. I was cussing and yelling. Mr. Brooks calmed me down. Now we're friends, and his kid started. I threw a squirrel on him once, a dead squirrel, at practice, and he loved it. But these guys that have been in this room, and they're there for a reason. So and they remember that. He remembers the squirrel, right? He remembers the stuff that went on. They did the little TV Channel 45 did a little special with him. If you look it up, it's on there. But I lost track now.
I got you all wound up.
Well, you got me wound
Well,
up because
My question is, you're talking about all these people coming in.
Oh, that's right.
Do you ever get, like, are you ever just too packed?
Yeah, sometimes it is. But what am I going to do? Say you go home? See, they would have you believe that, right? I mean, look. Let me tell you something. I've heard that we're racist because we're in the country. I drive a pickup truck and this and that. I've heard it all, right? But everybody comes in a room and they love it. It's bullshit. It's just, again, typical of our society. That's bullshit. So we've heard it all, but they all come back and everybody comes in. And for what reason? I don't know, but they love it. And so what the question that you just answered, or asked, was,
Does it ever get too packed? Do you ever have to turn somebody away?
We can't. So we try to manage it, and then we try to, when we know they want to come back, we try to organize it so it's not so packed. The first time it happens, you're like, oh shit, what are we going to do?
Sure.
And we fix it. But it's open to everybody. Glenelg uses it all the time.
And that's where the private facility thing comes in. I mean, that's got to be a must at this point, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't do this when you didn't have the barn.
Nope. If my real goal is what I've told you guys, is to make Maryland better. And we've changed Maryland. The Warhawks, all of us, not Ray Cable was a great assistant coach, Mac Crawford, all these guys. That the best was Chris Lawrence. Chris Lawrence, the most unselfish guy in the world. Because of this group of people, we've changed the sport. Nobody went to VAC. Oh my God, they're going to get hurt. They're going to get beat up. Nobody went to Tyrants. Nobody did it before us. We did it with a club team. We might borrow 1 or 2 kids because we didn't have a weight or a kid really wasn't ready. But we went down and got the shit kicked out of us, 73-3. Snyder's the only one that won in overtime at Tyrants the first year. Matt Pente was getting destroyed. Budox were getting beat up, everybody. And we went back and then it ended up winning it. It took us 7 years. We won Tyrants with a club team. Every one of our guys that have been coming, we had 1 kid we borrowed for that. And he didn't even win that many matches. But so it's crap. We let these kids in and they want to come back and then we kind of siphon through it and we find out who's ready and we take them and we do what we have to do.
Now, how much is it like? It's funny that you say that. I can kind of almost feel some of the influence that it's had on me, whether it be you or Bill Smith, who maybe you got it from, but trying to give these kids an experience that they won't get elsewhere with the competition.
That's a great question.
And I think that some of it, like I think back to when I was competing in mixed martial arts, obviously came up a wrestler, but I was at the age where you needed to kind of round out your game. The sport had started to evolve, and I thought my striking is what my technical strength is where I lacked. So what can I do? Okay, I'm going to get on a plane and go to Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm going to live at a Muay Thai camp and fight at the stadium over there and do all these sort of things. Like, are you looking at what the best teams in the country are doing, and your goal is to outdo them? And what can we do to offer experiences for these kids those are experiences they'll always remember those, going to those big events and stuff like that and being on those teams. Like, is that something that you consciously do? Like,
that's why we did it. We had to drive to find losses. We needed it. And I knew that it was going to make a difference. It was hard though, man, because there's like a point where your kids are getting that shit beat out of them, and the parent, you're like, is there mutiny? And it's like, man, is this right? In PA, you're on a bar all the way back here. The referee just looks like what? In Maryland, you do it. In the little, because it's liberal state, they go nuts and say you're going to hurt someone. So it's a whole different style, and you wonder why we can't compete. Our public schools, except for what you did, can't hardly go anywhere out of state to do anything. Why? How's that helping us? If the parents want to pay for the hotels, I don't care where you go. You should be able to go to any tournament you want. And
I mean, do you think that's why a lot of your guys end up going to private schools?
They go to private schools because they have the money to help pay. We've gotten some really cheap educations at the best schools in the country because of what we do. Look, they're sitting in our room watching practice. They're not anywhere else, right? I mean, Harry got Noggle, and Harry's a great recruiter, but they're nowhere else. They're mostly in our room watching.
It seemed like, I mean, I don't know what, it seemed like you had a lot of going to Spaulding for a while.
Well, speaking of Spaulding, the best coaching staff out there. If you were to ask me, think about those guys. To Cosmo, I called him Coke Bottle because of glasses. You got Herwig, Mr. Peace, and that guy's obviously, he's been at the barn lately a lot because of this fake virus that's going on, run by the Democrats, and so he's been there. And then you have Crom, I call him the angry short man from PA. A lot of anger in that guy, and he just had a baby, so he's slowing down a little. And I'll tell, and they got these coaches. Think about this staff, and then Josh Pruitt, Brady Pruitt's dad. Let me tell you, he came into our room. That dude can coach.
Oh, sure.
Great guy, great leader.
He did a lot for Mount Hebron when they turned the corner there.
Yeah.
Like, he was a big influence on kind of turning the corner at that among others, but was very very involved with the Mount Hebron program back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and he gets credit. I mean, look, he works for the Obamas. He's been with them for 10 years. And when he retires, he and I are going to have a talk so I can understand things. I mean, he's a great guy. But we'll deal with that later. But this dude is like that. He's on the staff down there now at Spaulding. If it wasn't for the grounds at McDonough, when you walk on the campus and you see all that, and Pete and Joe have done a great job, right? But they have bigger jobs now there. So you get bored, which we talked about with me. You get bored. How many times can you get both in the Hall of Fame, all that? So you lose your edge a little. They're starting to get it back now because they have some young guys, I think, in there. But the Spaulding guys, if they had that kind of campus and had the money, they'd be nationally right there. Those coaches, it's the place to be for pure coaching.
Phenomenal
as far as
coach,
that goes.
without question.
Yeah,
very good. I mean, where I think everybody that you mentioned is people that I admire quite a bit for their coaching ability, but I really do think Spaulding has a good thing that they've put together. We've actually wrestled them in dual meets the last couple of years. My first dual meet as a head coach was against Spaulding.
That was that Couch and
that was Couch
had
and
that
Phil.
great match.
Yeah.
That was a great hate match.
Yeah.
I could hear Rick in the background.
My favorite part
Hillbillies
was
were going nuts.
Phil goes up afterwards and tries to hug him at the very end. There were some questionable calls in there. It depends on your perspective. I thought they were correct, but that's a story for another time. Phil goes to hug him at the end, and Couch shoves him, and I thought that's exactly what it should be. Stop hugging people.
Exactly.
That's a competitor, I'm coaching the other team, the one where the kid gets shoved, and I thought no problem on this end. I thought that was.
Ryan,
that's a competitor.
That right there, Jason, is making me want to take a page out of Jason Gabrielson's book, and I want to give you a kiss right now because that makes me proud to hear you say that's what it should. This handshaking bullshit. Come on, man. Do you have any desire to shake the other coach's hand, win or lose, especially if you lose? What is it? It doesn't do anything. The pushing and the shoving's good as long as later they're not getting in a fight and getting thrown out of school. But that's all good stuff. It's a man sport. It's not soccer. There's no grass fairy going on. It's a man sport. It's the toughest sport in the world. so what? Don't disqualify someone because they push and shove. If you bite them or punch them right in the face, okay, that's a little different. But it's just, again, it's a symptom of our society that won't allow it, and that's why we're not going to jump to the next level. The Warhawks, we've done that. Now you look at how many kids are going to bigger things and wrestling D1 or any division. We got 2 at Cable and Levesque at McDaniel. Yeah. I prefer Western Maryland because McDaniel was a liberal that took charge and had money and made it be named after him. But so we'll say Western Maryland here. But
the floor is yours. You make
we have to. We can't give them. They're going to ruin things worse than they have. So it's just one of those things that the toughness is another example that's okay. Look at the Jared Thomas Phil Smith match. That could be the best match in Maryland history in the finals.
From the corner, it was extremely entertaining.
Everybody talked about it. They were in it. You know how many times they drilled? They both lock up a near cradle. I know I don't know any moves for you phonies. So they lock up the near cradle, and we do this drill. And you both roll with the cradle. And when I blow the second whistle, it's live. So they both have the same move, and they're rolling. They don't know when the whistle's going to blow. And you learn not to panic. It's the best drill in the whole world. You learn not to panic. You hold that cradle. If you panic, you get put on your back. You got to keep it, and you learn mat awareness. It's a fist fight type drill. Well, that's the situation they were in.
Yeah.
Right.
That for those that aren't aware, Jared Thomas and Phil Smith wrestled in the 2018 state championship. 2019 state championship finals, and it's funny. Like, so much backstory on that match, and both of them came up through your program. I know Phil was at a couple of different ones.
Yeah, I got to be fair because Phil was he was with McKim, and that was.
Well, he's at Warhawks.
Woodlawn.
Woodlawn, yeah, and
right.
he another great program that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. But, what did spend time in the Warhawks room, and Jared was exclusively at the Warhawks, or pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, both of them could have gone 32. They were at 138. And, just the mindset of both of them, they wanted to go to wrestle one another. And I would talk with Glen L coaches, the Beechner brothers, throughout the year, and say, hey, you're still staying at this weight, right? And they said, yeah, you guys are too, right? And these guys were on a collision course, undefeated on the season, both defending state champions. And then, man, did they leave it all out there. And
that was wasn't it? I mean, people got to go watch that match. And like the Beechners, again, look what they're doing at Glenelg. I mean, just good people, man. Those dudes are doing a great job. They come into the barn, they support us. Matt gives me money every year to help because his kids use the barn on occasion and helps us out where he can. And Danny, I mean, all of them. They're just a great group. And that match, they did that drill so many times in practice, and it was so kind of rewarding, to see that scrap in that position. And Phil ended up keeping it and got the points. But it went. I don't even know how they scored it. But
it was definitely. I mean, you watch that, and it's like, well, I mean, a lot of Phil's matches are like that too. He puts himself in some precarious positions, but it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, without question. Is there anybody and even we ask people to write in questions and stuff like that. I probably won't be able to get to them all, but Adam DeCosmo asked, speaking of DeCosmo, did you have a favorite Warhawk to come up through the program that you'd like to talk about?
Man, that's tough. I'll tell you, the one that comes to mind because it's recent is Vosmansky. This kid was like a lot of guys on your team. He reminded me of Law. Remember the Law brothers? Mm-hmm. Not the most physically talented kid. Matter of fact, he was Phil's partner, and they battled. By the time he beat Phil in a wrestle off at the barn, boy, man, Mr. Phil was having a fit. But he worked his ass off, and then he gets up on the stand this year and wears the Warhawk shirt, and it really helped us because the little kids see that, and the little kids say, well, I want to go to Warhawks. It's huge, and his loyalty was amazing. So here's a kid that wasn't the most blessed, and just took his beatings and was loyal and wore that shirt, and it was noticed. And So I mean, but I don't know. That's a tough one to answer.
Oh, I'm sure it's. I mean, so
Because
many
you
years of it.
go. What do you do? What do I do? Do I talk about Bailey Thomas and the as good as Phil Smith match? They got to go to National Preps and watch Bailey Thomas finals. It was amazing. There were Granbys and cradles and this and that. Amazing. Talk about hustle and bustle and heart. Bailey Thomas was nothing but heart. So do I talk about that? You know what Budak did? He wrestled Tayshawn. They had some great matches, and I mean, I'm not even going to bring up Snyder because that's what some of these other fools would do, is brag about a guy that was going to be great no matter where he went. So I'm not going to take credit for that. You know, I don't know, man. I mean, that's hard. How do you do that? You know,
I mean, it's been a lot of guys that have come through that program now. I mean, 10 plus years, right? More than that.
Yeah. And I don't know, like Ray Cable's as talented as any of them, and he's a NASCAR hero. He's a race car guy.
Sure. Yeah.
He likes to fight with crowbars in the pit. His dad's that's a real hillbilly right there. Matter of fact, one time his dad at a duel meet, we sat in a corner at the Hagerstown duels, and he was on my right side, and he was breathing on me for 5 straight hours in these duel meets. And I came to practice the next day, and it was a direct line right down my face. Anybody will tell you this. All the hair fell off. I didn't have to shave for weeks. And this side, you know, I had to shave, and it just killed whatever he was doing. Whatever he had was breathing. It was just took it off. And I tried to tell the women to patent it so they don't have to shave their legs for a month. Just let Ray breathe on them. Those legs. But now I'm kind of, well, that did happen. It's a phenomenon. But let me tell you, there's another guy, right along with Chris Lawrence and those guys, unselfish, always part of the program, always there, man. So how does he not be one of the favorites? You know, that's a tough one.
Yeah. It's speaking of Spaulding coaches, one that we left off the list, Mike Fitzgerald, who
oh my God, I forgot Mike.
Yeah, Mike, and he was with the Warhawks for a little bit as well,
year.
And then
Yep.
He wrote in a question. Mike, by the way, is one of the most influential people on my wrestling career that I don't think ever, you know, gets the credit, or, you know, and not that my wrestling career is talked about to any, you know, crazy amount. But he wrote in what do you ultimately want your legacy to be remembered as?
That is something Mike would ask. You know, Mike's opposite of me. He's real serious, down to business, organized, clean, you know, all that stuff. And I left that out. That guy, man, he was in there for a year. That guy has a wealth of experience. I think he lived with Gable for a year or so. Just a great individual. And you know, he's like all these guys. You know, all these, especially the little guys that wrestled, they're a little odd. I mean, you know. Because how do you not eat for all those years and it doesn't affect you? It has to fuck you up somehow, right? So, but that guy, man, he's really knowledgeable, so to answer his question, and this comes back to the MJWL incident that I didn't finish, but loyalty, that we're loyal, that if you have to fight, I'm going to fight. If I walk out around a building one night and I see 5 guys beating up my friend, and my friend's getting beat up, and my friend doesn't see me, and you know if you go over there, you're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to get punched in the face and kicked and who knows what. And you're hiding behind the pillar of this building, right? And I always tell this story to the kids. You have a decision to make. And you don't have time to think about it. It's easy when you have time to think about the right answer. You have a decision to make. Am I going to walk out there and get beat up so my friend has a few less bumps on his head, but my friend doesn't see me? So I could kind of go back and then come back or go call the police or whatever, which is, you don't call the police ever. That's another liberal thing. And he would never know, and you don't get beat up, but you have to live with it, right? Wouldn't that haunt you?
Sure.
If you knew you did that, especially his teeth get knocked out, he's beat. So that comes back to your foundation, your parents and coaches. If the coaches you have teach this and talk about this and tell these stories that I tell every night in practice, that will bring you to tears sometimes, because if you don't have something in your life that can make you cry in 5 seconds, you're not experiencing life the way it should be. You're missing out. You got to be involved. There's got to be something out there. And so, do you want to? Or all of a sudden you come around and there it is, and every second you deliberate, he's getting punched again. Your friend who you love is getting punched again. Every second. And the people that react the fastest are the people that were brought up right and had coaches that said it's okay, you got to take up for your friends and be loyal and jump in that shit and go. And I've done it.
And that's what you think your legacy. Are you worried at all that now maybe it's not. I'm going to address this in a couple of different ways. But are you worried at all that your legacy is going to be remembered as getting kicked out of a tournament and come back in wearing a disguise? Or like, you get so animated with stuff, and there is an aspect to it that's the Dan Ricker show. And you have fun doing it, and that's fine. Like, are you worried at all that your legacy is going to be remembered for some of the craziness rather than what, is the more important lessons?
I mean, I can't lie. I guess at some points I wonder that, you think about it, but then it gets overridden with, that's why the kids come. They like a cartoon character. Every teacher, every parent acts a certain way. I'm different than that. And so they get to come in a place where they can be free and they can battle. And if they get mad, they can throw a punch, and then they get talked to. Then they have to hug. That's what we do in the room. They have to hug afterwards. After they fight, we let them battle, and then they hug, and they become friends, and they learn that way. So ultimately, I can't change that because the kids are going to get screwed.
Right. And now when we talk about legacy, kind of just going right off Mike's question, but what legacy is important? What the 100% of the population or the rest of the community remembers, or the ones that the important legacy is the ones that you're connected with. So that's the only opinion that really matters, right? Or
it does. I mean, everybody says that. So I always say when I hear the stuff that I hear, and when I was barking like a dog at Noggle, wasn't that? It was this new fox call that I was practicing, and I was doing it to irritate, but it was a new fox call I was blowing, trying to practice because I was going to hunt the next day. But that's another story. I mean, look, tough. We're going to be who we are, and the kids are going to want to come back, and that's why they want to come back. Look, I remember taking Brady Pruitt and Butts home. I'd drive them home sometimes after practice to Clarksville, and I'd always take the truck, and they loved it when I took the truck. We'd go up this one field on Underwood Road, and there'd always be deer in this field, big, huge field, and I'd take off after the deer, and we'd chase them in the pickup truck, and they're in the back jumping around, happy as shit, right? And they're sitting in the back. There's probably turds in there and cups of piss and spilled, who knows what, right? And they're jumping around having a good time. And I'm taking some pop shots, just a cap gun. They thought it was a 9mm, riding it bandolero style, going down the road. Well, guess what? That's what they're talking about.
Are you sure it was a cap gun?
It might not have been. But anyway, his dad's Secret Service, so I better be quiet. But the point is, they loved it.
Right.
Everybody got hurt, right? We didn't even kill the deer. It's hard to hit one when you're going 50 through a field. But that's what they talk about. Right, that's what you guys talk about. We used to watch the hog hunting videos and all the stuff.
Yeah, you still bring that up?
Yeah, I got new stuff.
So people are aware of what's going on. To motivate the Hammond wrestling team in '98, Ricker brought in highlight videos of hog hunting, like with
knives,
with
knives,
spears. Yeah, and the moral of it was about when you go hog hunting, and I didn't realize this at the time. It's not really shooting. It's you get a pack of dogs to kind of distract it, then you go up behind the hog and flip it and stab it, or stab it with the spear. And it was, look at the courage of brown bulldog, and look at this bulldog here. And it was, you need to be a bulldog out there. Very weird way to get the message across, but still, we're still talking about it over 20 years later.
That's one of the, there was 3 things that I'll remember. One is the Danny Embry incident. 2 is the hog hunting, and then 3 is probably just drilling over and over underhook high crotch like 1,000 times. And that the 3 things that your time at Hammond in '98 that I won't forget. Obviously the stories and all that is great, and you know what I mean, but you can pinpoint those things. It's been 22 years later, and like you said, it's stuff that you don't forget.
Yeah, so why change?
Right.
You don't want to change for perception's sake of there, and it's it's gotta. There's gonna be people that aren't gonna. Well, look, going back to loyalty, right? So there's obviously people that will leave your program, right?
I don't know. I think we need to do a survey. I don't think very, very, very few people have ever left. I don't know if anybody's ever left. Sure, it's happened, maybe 1 or 2. That's the amazing thing. People that are critical don't know. They don't leave, and they don't want their kids. said this to come, because they're not going to, what happened? And they're going to say, we need to be here because that window's closing. Do I want to wait for my kid to be in 6th, 7th grade? Or do I want to just do it now? It's my son. It's my son. Do you wait or you just join in? And I hope you guys do it. I want somebody to beat us for real so we can get some hate lathered up and then have something to go for. So
there were a few other questions in here. And John Rio asked about deer piss in the sauna. And I would ask you, but I've actually experienced that firsthand. Jason and I were talking about things that we remember. And I remember you taking Vayman Dennis and myself in there because we were so far overweight. And, you know, I won't say locked us in the sauna because that sounds cruel, but you made sure that we made weight the next day by taking.
You were locked in,
and we got some. Yeah, it's some naked guys got kicked out of the sauna. They're asked very directly to leave, and then at some point, some kind of liquid ended up on the sauna, which you claimed was deer urine. And I thought, you know, this is torture. I remember on the ride home you saying that. I'm doing that so that you remember the experience and, you know, never let yourself be put in this situation again, you know, because I went out and did the wrong thing, ate the wrong things and didn't control my weight properly. But that's something that is been a regular part of your repertoire. Is it always deer urine? Is that real?
I have a little scooter that I ride around the room and chase the kids, a little motorcycle. I've got a video of that. And sometimes I'll spray a little fox piss on the heater, mainly to get the parents out, the moms, so they'll go out. Stop talking about wrestling when you're not beating anybody. Go to the store and shop and come back and get the kids and the dads that want to yell at their kids. We'll get into that in a minute, but because I got a
we actually have a question pretty close to that.
Yeah, so look, it's a distraction. When you guys were ready, Vayman was almost crying. He was a tough guy. I love Vayman. You know, Vayman in lacrosse was the only kid I could tell him go out and hit that kid in the Peter. Said, when the ref's not looking, whack that kid from Hebron in the ding-dongs. We weren't any good, and Hebron was good. And Vayman would crack him in the Peter, you know, and, the kid would fall over and then whack Vayman. He got caught, and he got thrown out. And we were man up for a few minutes and had a chance. But Vayman was having a rough time. You were miserable.
Sure.
And I needed something to get your mind off of it because you were still about 2 pounds over. You guys lost like 8 pounds that night.
I think more than that, but you know, it's that was my own doing.
I just regret that Mr. Freiert wasn't there. I'd have loved to torture that man.
Yeah. That was 98.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have had the 103 struggles until the next year.
No, I didn't have to cut
6'2"
my sophomore year.
And 103.
Yeah, next year is when.
No, but speaking of that, and I'm reading directly from the Facebook thread, but Christopher Pickett want to know your thoughts on kids being pushed too hard or doing too many tournaments at a young age. What do you think is optimal as far as the amount of competition and I believe training as well? And also, do you remember any kids that didn't succeed or maybe even quit because of their parents?
Yeah, I know there's a couple good ones. One good one, I can't remember his name, that quit. He could have been phenomenal because dad just, the biggest thing in wrestling that runs kids off is cutting weight and dad, right? I mean, that's the biggest problem, like internal problem that you have. It makes them hate it, and so let's see. I don't remember any that quit because we grab them. It's kind of a service that we do. We get them and right away, and we say, as far as the amount of matches, and we look at the kid and look at the parents, and we try to, many times I would talk to kids, say, look, be respectful, listen to your dad, but to let it go in one ear out the other. I'd walk on the mat so the parent couldn't see me because kid's in tears because the dad's just looking at them. It's like ridiculous. And so you have to do that, and then they trust you. So then you get to the tournament. So like our kids wrestle 60 to 80 matches. Vipers, you get 20, right? 25, you can't.
Yeah, we got
30, whatever.
We got 35 on average.
Because you guys are there. Because you and Kilo are there. But before that, either way, it doesn't matter. We can talk about that another day. Because tough-minded people, that's nothing to you. So here's the point. It's not about the matches, but a certain amount of wrestling, you just evolve into it, and you learn how to roll and awareness. It's not necessarily a move. You get to you can only go to a certain point with that, and then you have to be taught things. So when you look at the kid, we'll say, look, if the kid is saying, I want to go, and you have an influence on him, and he knows that you want him to go without even saying it, and they go, and push themselves more than they would have, that's being a coach. See, I don't have a son in the room. So it's not focused on how many matches my sons get and who follows. It's who wants to do it, and I can see them all. And I can see the look on their face, and I can tell when they're broken, and I can tell when they need a break. And then we'll say, go home, and we'll send them to the tournament where they can win a few. And the kids, we don't tell them that, but we do it every year.
Yeah.
Really good at that. And so they might only get 50. But nobody's getting less than 40. So you could be the best coach in the world. How can you compete with us when my kids are getting 60, 70, 80 matches and you're getting 20 or 30? And half of them, they're getting their ass kicked.
And they're coming in with the expectation that they're gonna get a lot of matches, look, this is a shocker for me this year with the Vipers is, sort of this, kind of placating to, oh well, he plays basketball or blah 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 blah, and maybe we'll go to this tournament here. And, me and Joe are like, look, you're on this team. You're coming to practice every day. You're coming to these tournaments. You're doing X, Y, Z. The expectation has now been set. So do those guys just kind of weed themselves out, or do they not even make it inside the barn?
No, we have many that come in and they try to do basketball and they try to do other things. And you look at the kid and you're like, look, you can't just go crazy and run them off.
Right.
Because you don't know what he could be, right?
Sure.
Now you can only go so long with it, a year or two, like Saka. This year, Saka, right?
Mm-hmm.
He quit. He wanted to play basketball. And his dad didn't like it. His dad's a great, great conservative. And he is a great man, that guy. And so his dad said, talk to me. And Mr. Saka, what a great family, by the way. And so he said, look, let's just let him do it. We'll get him back. He was worried because I was going to flip out because he was the most talented kid in the family, and his dad said it. And so guess what? He went, he played, he bounced the ball around, and here's what he realized. He realized that if he's at the Woodstock Inn having a few drinks one day, and somebody walks up and grabs your cheeseburger, and you're sitting there with your girlfriend, and they take it and start eating it, and look at you and say, what are you going to do? What do you say? Hold on, let me go home and get my basketball or my chemistry book so I can hit you with it. The hell's that, right? But a wrestler is going to hit you with a double leg, put you down, and take your cheeseburger back, right? And have some respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's funny, but it's true. That's our instinct. Don't tread, don't push, don't bully, or I'm going to come at you whether I'm this big or this big. And so we knew that he realized that ball wasn't going to do anything for him, and he came back, and now he's a 2-time state champ.
How much of that, obviously you focus on that toughness, right? Ingraining that. How much do you think is already there in these kids and parents, and how much can you bring it out / just teach them about it?
So that's probably the best question ever. So here's a thing. I'm going to get to it. Here's our rule, and the next year it's going to be implemented full bore. So maybe next year some people might get thrown out. So the rule is, these parents, if you're going to sit and scream at your kid, get up and yell at him, you're a piece. I've had parents say, you're a piece of shit, you'll never be anything.
Jesus.
And these are kids that are tough. And I've told a parent, I'm going to punch you in the face, stop talking to them like that. And I try to not do it in front of the kid because I understand the parent needs to be educated. And I'm friends with one of those people right now. And we had that talk 2 years ago. And part of it I didn't understand that the kid needed to be kind of pushed, but some of it was too much, right?
Sure.
So the rule is, if you're going to talk to your kid like that, you're going to come out and practice and you're going to wrestle one of the coaches. You're going to get put down in a tight waist and say, get off your back or get off the bottom while somebody's laying on you, smothering you, pulling your hair, grabbing your doodads, whatever they have to do. And let your kid stand over you and say, get off the mat. You're a pussy. What are you fucking doing? I punched one guy. I did punch one guy up at Malvern. I did take that back. I punched a guy in the mouth. He's a real piece of shit. Asher up in Western Maryland, and his poor little kid, he sucked him down so much weight, and he's wrestling for us up there, and he's calling him names. You'll never be what I was. And I couldn't fucking take it. And then he pissed himself. There's lots of witnesses that can tell that story. I'll let somebody else tell it, but he pissed himself.
He was a Warhawk kid?
No, he just wrestled for us in that tournament because we needed a guy at that weight. And what a coward, what a little punk. And this little kid was trying his ass off. He wasn't as good as that kid. No way he was beating that kid. And he was trying so hard. His eyes were all bugged out because he sucked him down in weight. He was 9 years old. And I asked him twice nice. I couldn't take it anymore. And he went to reach. And he got popped. And then he pissed in his pants. But you know, so I got off on that. But I have to answer the question. So the rule is going to be, if you talk to your kid like that, you can't come back to the room until you get out there and let your kid stand over you. We'll do it after practice, right? But you should do it in front of everybody. We'll do it whenever.
Yeah, because you're doing it in front of everybody.
Exactly. So you know what? I just changed the rule. We are going to do it. Thanks, Jason. We're going to do it in front of everybody.
On the spot.
Because that's phony for me to say.
That's when I'll visit the barn. Just
right.
let me know.
Okay, that was liberal for me to say we're not embarrassed. So here's the thing, and that's going to be the rule, right? And that's just going to be
and
the rule.
Rule is the parent has to do what?
You go wrestle one of the coaches.
In the hopper.
Yeah, you wrestle. If you weigh 150, I'll find one of our coaches 150, and you're going to go. And then the kid's going to tell you. And then when you get thrown down, the kid's going to say, "Get up, you're a piece of shit. What are you doing, Dad? Get up!" While you're getting tight waist and your face mashed in the mouth. See, most of these people never been punched in the mouth.
He's getting wound up.
Right? They've never been in a situation where you can't breathe. We talk about the big headlocks and the moves and where your body's twisted. How about this one? How about a regular tight waist when it's third period and you can't breathe and somebody's squeezing your stomach and you're flat and everybody's saying, "Get up." Or they're saying, "Shoot," and you're exhausted and some guy's way better than you and they want you to dive in under a guy that's already way better kicking your ass. These guys are assholes. So they're going to be, next year, that's the rule, that if you do that, you can't come back unless you wrestle a coach and your kid gets to watch it.
And
torment,
critique.
Tell you to get up.
Right, okay.
Now,
So, I mean, it seems like you have problems with parents being too intense then.
well, sometimes because they want to obviously live through, the kid. And again, 90%. One of your comments you had on your uncensored, which by the way, this thing you're doing is the best thing ever, way better than the old forum. But so you had a parent that said, "I am living through my kid. I missed my opportunity." I forget who it was. They commented on your thing and he said, "And I'm going to live through them every minute I can because I missed my chance." But he was joking.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. That was great. But yeah, and look, Jason, these guys, nobody that's been punched in the mouth or beat up or smothered or done that is ever going to yell at the kid because they know what it feels like, right? If you've never been sick, if you've never had a flu, how do you know how the person feels when somebody's sitting there throwing up? You don't know how they feel if you've never had it. But you can relate if you've been sick. I'm not talking about this fake virus going on. I'm talking about the real flu. So how do you know? So we're going to make this next year, we're going to make the parents better and they can leave. And if, that's just the way it's going to be.
Okay. The getting to, and sorry, we're not going to come close to touching all the questions, but I did have a good
I don't
one.
got anywhere to be.
Yeah, me either.
OM Scorps, who I'm not exactly sure who that is, but that's what they're listed as on the uncensored page.
Maybe you know him. Maybe he went to.
I got a story about that.
He said, or they asked, what is the measurement of success, and what defines success in your mind? Like, what's the measurement of success for a wrestler that you coach, and what do you define as success? Is it, I'm thinking he's asking, is it just the medals they achieve? Is it the progression that they make as a wrestler and as a man or woman, or what is it?
So here in a wrestling analogy, right? OM Scorps, by the way, I saw that and he said something that made me proud. And I said, "I don't know who you are, but I like your comments." And then he texted me back. He said, "Coach, during your years at the mill, you don't realize the impact you had on me." And I said, "Well, who is it?" So if OM Scorps doesn't come out today and reveal who you are, we're going to have some punishment.
I know who he is.
Okay, so who is it? Or
I'm
for him? Let's see if he can.
So.
Have real names. And I know a guy named Jay Keys that plays that game, but that's okay. And Saka does it too. Mr. Saka calls himself something else, but he's still a good American. So success is doing something, beating somebody you've never beaten, doing something you didn't think you could ever do. Like here, a perfect example, Ethan Bohan at Marriott Ridge. Ethan never made our starting line. Dominic Solis never made our starting lineup for most events. The Kreisers, Jason Kreiser. Why do you think the Kreisers are at Warhawks? That's as good a family as you're ever going to see. His mother is amazing. Carrie's amazing. I'm going to miss seeing her at practice, right? Cliff tries to act like, the hard guy, but he's a nice guy at heart. He's a good dude. So Jason was not the best athlete. I had him in football and wrestling. He used to get beat and he'd get mad, And so all of a sudden he starts beating people that beat him. That's success. Some guy that pinned you, or some guy's got you on your back and he's better, and it was 50 seconds to go and you don't get pinned, and the last time he pinned you, that's success. Because you're suffering, man. You're in the trenches, right? You're down here, you can't breathe, everybody's yelling, and this guy beats, and you can't handle him. You've grabbed him and you feel it, you're getting beat. It's like punching a guy as hard as you can, and he says, what was that? That's pretty deflating. So success is taking a little kid that lost to a kid 7-0, losing to him next time 7-3, not beating him. And then the next time 7-5, and the next time overtime, and the next time shove him after the match and say, let's go. Now the kid's like, oh shit. And then a year or two later beating him.
It's progress.
Yep.
Yeah, getting better, outworking. I mean, that's, one thing that we focused on so much this year, me and Joe, is, because we had a young team. Our elementary team, nobody was travel. It was all rec kids coming up. And, with the same thing. For Spaulding tournament, kid, gets teched or whatever. Next time, only a couple points. We had a lot of, turning around and beating a kid later on. And I mean, we did that in high school too. You know what I mean? It wasn't, it didn't matter he beat you in the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, you're gonna be winning counties. You're gonna be beating him, because that's what matters. So I mean,
but isn't that, think about it, if you have your own child, right? Not just somebody. I watched you in the States one year. Kid beat somebody, you were in the bleachers, you were having a fit, and it was something special, and I don't remember the kid, but I could tell it was the guy did something that you didn't expect him to do, and you were like, come on, you're already hyper, but you were, and I was standing behind and you didn't even see me, but
which match,
yeah,
that sounds like
yeah, and I don't know if it was a finals or consolation, but you lose a kid in the first round, come back and beat him for third, fourth.
Yeah.
That's toughness, man, right? And so when we sit in practice and tell stories at the end, we never talk about Meyer Shapiro went beating everybody, or Richard Federlin or Dominic or Snyder. We never talk about who won the tournament. We don't. Most of those guys are very blessed and they should win, but either way, we talk about the kid that didn't get pinned, the lesser kid, like this Ethan Bohan kid that won it this year. He never made our lineup. His mom used to get angry. She hated Ray Cable, but it was just because he would argue with her, and now they love each other. But look what he did. Look what he did. Spano that won it, all those guys at Marriott Ridge, the guys they've had that won it all came out of the program. They were never.
Yeah, I mean, Spano was the first state champ for Marriott's Ridge, I believe, and now they got
undefeated too. I think he pinned his way through the state tournament.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
so
he came back.
They have 3 state champs now, and
none of them were our starting lineup, and so Jason Conley's never come to the barn. He's 3 miles away. And whatever, we can call it what you want, but it's ridiculous. And because it's hatred, he's part of that crew, I think, that is like, these guys are barbaric. With Brad Howe over there, there's just like, they look at us like we're animals. I feel the looks. I don't know what I did, but I feel it. And it's like, stop bitching and complaining. Stop running up to the score table with your little book so your kid can get an extra point. Just let him wrestle, and battle later and make it happen. But it's like, come visit, come to the barn and visit. At least you're getting our kids. If you want more, Levesque should have gone there.
Well, and look, that's part of the reason too. I mean, we're at, the Vipers elementary team runs out of Hammond now. Howard County is big enough for, how many travel teams are in Anne Arundel or Montgomery? I mean, there's a ton.
Or Carroll, right?
Or in Carroll, yeah.
And
so, we're trying to get some of those, those eastern Howard County. Between the barn all the way head east, where you got the next thing you hit, Spaulding, like Blue Claw.
Well, you're Blue Claw, but Central Maryland, they're doing a good job out there. They got like 80 kids.
Where they run out of?
I think they're out of Old Mill. Yeah.
Old Mill. So it's basically Spaulding.
Yeah.
So there's nothing in between there. So
but
where are most of your
this?
kids coming from?
Well,
they're coming from all over, right?
We got kids from West Virginia. Kai Polinsky drives, and they bitch about it. He's on your team, you cheater. I'm tired of that shit, man. And he drives from West Virginia 2 days a week, sometimes 3, it used to be, and sometimes 2 now, because, the middle school made him stay up and do some stuff. We got kids that drive from Andre's dad brings him. Andre Younger drives from Southern Maryland. Well, then I don't know where they now. 2 hours. Jamel Muhammad drove 2 hours through that Beltway traffic to get to our room, past 5 other programs. Now, here's one thing I have to say this, and there used to be some hatred with Rodriguez, and by the way, his wife runs the show up there, not Rodriguez. She runs it. She puts the hammer down. I'm kind of kidding, but very supportive. And if I had somebody like that with me, we would get people to pay their bills. A lot of people never pay. Gigliotta and Rodriguez, their program, man. Look what those kids at South Carroll did this year.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Tough. You know why? Because those two guys came to Hammond one time when I was coaching. We had a state tournament practice, and they came over from Montgomery County to practice with us.
At Seneca Valley and Sherwood.
And they were fighting almost each other. And I was like, I fell in love with them. And I remember after practice, I bringing them up. I said, I don't know who these guys are because I didn't know. This is what I'm talking about. I don't know if you all were there at that time. I don't remember.
I think so because Sherwood.
It was 98.
We used to invite Sherwood over, and I remember they just started coming.
Both of them won it that year. They both went up.
Well, was Jake Liotti? He was the one that got stabbed, right?
Yeah.
He got
it made
stabbed.
me love him more.
Yeah, and then he came back at the very end of the year, and then beat the guy in the state finals.
That he lost to in the regions, right?
Yeah. And he was in the finals the previous year. And then Rodriguez, I think, was a sophomore that year and won it. I thought it was 125, but I could be off on that. I'm going off.
But here's the point: they came in the room and they were fighting each other basically, sure. And I brought them up and they liked me because of that. And then when the whole Warhawks and they took over, there was some hatred. I'm talking shit, they're talking shit, whatever. And but right now, man. I mean, they go to all the tough stuff. VAC. Look at their kids. Look at the ones that went to South Carroll this year. His older son, and then the thin white kid that won. I mean, he did great.
Owens.
Pizzuto.
Tough.
Pizzuto's
tough, but this kid's nasty, man. A skinny guy, and he's tough. And I used to yell at his dad. I'd cuss and say
Gage
stuff.
Owens.
Gage Owens,
yeah.
Right. And so. Guess what? Why are their kids tough? Because if there's a fight, if Rodriguez is in a fist fight, Giggs is jumping in. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's a tough group of people. So, and that proves again that toughness beats everything.
It's, I can't argue that one.
Yeah, you were tough as shit. I mean, you'd fight.
Sure.
You tried. Yeah. You hated me when I got you sunburned, and Kilo did too. But
you invited me out to go fishing one day and said, we'll have a nice relaxing day. We'll take the boat out on the pond. And I did yard work all day. I was digging ditches.
Yeah, we laid pavers too, remember? We pulled pavers up.
Right, yeah, and I still haven't touched a fishing rod on your property yet. I'm still waiting for that day, but I'm scared to go back. It's obviously it's really enjoyable talking with you and everything. Is there anything else that you want to touch base on? Is there anything else, I feel like we've kind of been dictating the conversation. Is there anything else on your mind that you want to talk about, whether it be the direction of the Warhawks program or Maryland wrestling in general, or just wind up and go and just do what Dan Ricker does and just start talking? Is there anything else? The floor is yours.
I mean, I brought up these coaches so that do it like, you don't remember this, but way back when Kenny Kyler ran Manchester, he had 2 good kids that were state champs. And then when he got out of it, it kind of went a little bit. And then Myers and some of these Dell and some of these guys took over. But they weren't, if they would get out of the MJWL, that program has no reason they can't beat us. They have a great tradition.
Why is being in the MJWL holding them back?
It's just a soft mentality. I mean, look,
okay.
We were there, and I got ridiculed for the fight that I got in with the bully. They can say what they want, and I pushed A-bar. If anybody's been in a fight, when you're walking across the mat, staring at somebody, and you see him coming, and Pendles, he's going to fight, I'm not worried about when somebody crosses in front, I'm not looking at who it is. I want him out of my way and back up so I can get some space. They can say what they want about that shit, and he deserved it. And then I got, so all the stuff they bitched, the Punisher and all of them bitched in all these meetings for weeks about him getting thrown out of St. Joe. He broke a table, got thrown out of Manchester for threatening a ref and all this stuff. And then we're coaching in the corner, and he would come around coaching his kid and stand right in front of you in your corner. And you're like, who does that, right? So they were all scared because a bunch of pussies were scared. So all of a sudden we get to the tournament, and they start doing that shit to Matt Lawrence, and he banged his head, and they're like, yeah, bang his head, he don't want none, he's scared and all that shit. And he comes over in the corner. I told the ref, I said, tell him to stop poking him in the eye. So I told Matt, I said, if he pokes you in the eye, and this is like 5 times in, punch him in his face, right? And he said, punch who? And then that's what started, right? So guess what? When all that happened, they couldn't control the guy. And then the police came. The police said, you want to press charges? He came over first. I said, hell no, I'm not pressing charges. I went to Peanut and said, I'll write a letter, because they said, hey, he's really good in the room with the kids. So he's good for the kids. And he and I are friends now, right? Another example. So I said, well, let's not kick him out. I said, no, we're done. That's too many incidents. McKim wants him out. I said, no, I'll write a letter saying it was my fault. I'll say I did it all. Don't kick him out. Just don't let him coach in the matches until he can stay on his corner, right? And no, we're not doing it. So they kicked him out, and I think he's over helping over there somewhere else. And when I saw him, there's mutual respect, because we stepped up and we're going to go. I didn't call the police. He ran off in a car because for whatever reason, I didn't have anything to get away for. And I said, no, are you kidding? I was insulted today. We'd asked to press charges for a fist fight. Again, liberal mentality. And you wonder why we can't catch up to PA.
I don't even know how we got here.
Well, because the MJWL, soft.
Well, I was going to say, because me and Joe have talked about this, and I've talked to Nagel about it too. Do you even need to be in a league?
Well,
right?
That's taking the fun out of it, though, Jason. Man, I mean,
team versus team.
It's taking the fun out of it.
Right.
This sport's evolved a lot, and it's taking the fun out when you can't have good dual meets. I remember against Bob Burkhart's team at Fawcett, man, we overtime. Snyder's wrestling, really good kid. Their match went to overtime, and we won by a point. Kyle won the match barely, and we won. And it was exciting, man. The place was packed. People were there, and they say, well, we can't because the Warhawks are an all-star team. Man, take that shit somewhere else. We're no all-star team. They come there because they want. 90% of our kids started were homegrown. So go down the list and fact check it. Talk to the parents and see what they think. Bring your kid there once and see what you think. Now, like you were saying, you and Kilo were talking about the leagues. Man, it's just more fun. But it's not fun when you're winning 60-20.
Right.
So it's so much more fun. And now it's become so selfish because we'll just take our kids to the good stuff. Remember, nobody did that stuff till we did it. VAC and McDonough duels and all. Nobody did it. And now, and so, but man, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a league, even if they combined, took MJWL All-Star and Arundel's All-Star, because we're a travel team. You took the rest of them, and we had a nice big dual meet at the end, and did it that way even. That'd be fun.
Right. Well, we did I guess it was called an exhibition, but Vipers did an exhibition with the Outlaws this year. We did it before the Oakland Mills Hammond dual meet at Hammond. And it was pretty cool. I mean, we only did about 12 matches just because we didn't want to take up too much time. It was in conjunction with the JV. And, it was cool. I mean, John was good and he didn't put out all his studs. Like his son didn't wrestle and, a couple of their studs didn't wrestle. But it was cool to get. And I'll tell you what, afterwards, we had some high school parents saying, I didn't even know there was little kids wrestling, And so it's helping to grow the sport and get these little kids involved.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, the reason I asked about the league is just because we had like 8 65-pounders this year that were, they wouldn't, you would try to get them matches at the, and you would try to rotate and get them matches. And it just, we found if you went up to a tournament, you could go to PA or Delaware and get, 4 or 5 matches at a tournament there instead of spending all day in a gym and getting 1 or 2 matches.
Well, we've offered
for the younger kids.
So now we're on his uncensored, right?
Yeah, man.
It's real stuff.
Speak
so
your
I'm going
mind.
to put it out for you and Kilo before you leave and come over. We have lots of new kids. We get about 20 new ones every year. We have real elementary new teams. And the barn, we've done nice with the Bandits. We've done quad meets at the barn. We just rotate when people come in for parking. Great matches, get a real referee. So we have the barn that's free, open anytime we want, because if our goal is to make Maryland better, we need to be having these matches.
Yeah.
And so we can get lots of matches, and we'll match them up the night before, no weigh-ins. Here's the other thing. For some of this stuff, this weigh-in stuff.
Yeah, we didn't do weigh-ins for that,
Yeah, man.
for the Outlaws thing.
Just come. Who wants to get up at 5 a.m. to go weigh in? No wonder people hate it.
Yeah.
Right? The parents have to drive to get a hotel. I'm talking about some of the other stuff. So here we are, and we have the barn, and we can do that. And JC will love it. All the guys will love it. And then we'll make a rule that nobody can come over there. You're my friend, so they're on your team. Nobody can leave and be on our team. And ask how many kids I've told that you stay on your team. I forget a couple that did it that were real good, and I said, no, you stay on your team.
There was some
practice with us.
issues this year, I think, at the AAWL. There was I think they wrestled, but there was kids, and I think they were wearing Warhawks singlets at the
wrestling for another program.
Yeah, wrestling for Bulldogs or
up in like Hartford County, or was it Baltimore?
No,
County?
I think it was Anne Arundel.
Was it Anne Arundel? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, the Andover team, maybe. I know.
I don't know. I get stuff third hand.
Yeah.
I didn't really go to the dual meets. I didn't really. I tried to just go to the tournaments and I mostly just did practice. So, like I said, I'm still getting my bearings straight with this junior league, but it's pretty wild, man.
It's tough. I mean, the wrestling's amazing.
It is. It is. There's
People
some
don't realize.
really good. What I like about it though is, like you said, these young kids, they get good so quickly if they get good coaching. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If they get good coaching and they learn how to drill. I mean, that was the biggest thing that I think, we, at Hammond, focused on, you and Smitty, is learning how to drill, how to be like a badass when you're drilling. Not like, you come in and they're like, just falling over. Like, come on, like, be a man. Like, go to war. That was the biggest thing. I mean, how many times did you and Kilo get in fist fights at Hammond practice?
But can you imagine? They got in a fist fight. People would go crazy today. Now, it happens in our room all the time.
Oh, yeah, your drill partner, man. You fight them all the time.
Right, but how close are you with Kilo?
Oh.
So what did it hurt to get in a fist fight?
Nothing. No, and I don't think that he and I, I certainly we don't have any hurt feelings about the fist fights and the scraps that we got.
No,
that's what
but
I'm saying. It makes you proud.
You get pissed.
Oh,
in there.
they definitely happened, and depending on the day, somebody got the better of somebody, and it was all good. We probably forgot about it 2 seconds. Probably when the whistle blew, we probably forgot about it. It was one of those type situations. But
Ryan, Jason, look, guys, and you laugh, and everybody makes fun. A lot of these parents want you to make their kid good, and they want you to kind of be the parent in a sense to a point when they're in that room, right? Think about this for a second. I know we see it, and some of them need parents, they don't have it. So you try to be that, and then they act a certain way. They start tearing shit up or do whatever. Then you need to have their ass whipped and told some things. I've never touched a kid, never had to. I can talk to them and they'll start crying because they're disappointed, because they think they disappointed you. If you build that trust, you got to build the trust. So here's what happens. You can't be the parent. You can't do that for the kids because the parent asks you to do it. Because if the parent whips their ass, the kid goes and a lawyer calls you. You know how many times I've had interviewed from social services come into my room and have to meet me because a kid went to school because, I'm not going to mention names on this one, because the kid had some bruises because the parent whipped their ass because they told their mom to F off or something like that. They need to have their ass whipped. So when they come into our room, their parents write it on the board. He told mom to shut up, and I torture him, and I tell the kids he needs to torture him until he leaves, and they beat the shit out of him, and then we talk to him and tell him why we did it, and then he doesn't do that shit anymore. And so, but guess what? Can you imagine if you did that in the public schools? Got this guy Duffy running everything now. He's softer than Don Disney, and Maryland public high schools, right? And could you imagine the and it's what's good for kids? It happens in Ohio and Pennsylvania and everywhere else. I mean, the good, tough places. And then you do it, and then the AD comes down and says, we got to talk. Hey, I heard you told some of the kids to beat up. I mean, beat them up in the practice.
Right.
And you can't do that. Like, well, he told his mom to F off.
Yeah.
So it baffles my mind. So then you're like, no, I'm not compromising my principle. We're going to do it, and it happens again. Like, remember the kid from your team that wanted to fight me? We'll tell that to later. But so
do you remember that?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
We'll get to that on part 2 of
and listen to this
record interview.
Yeah, that was a great one. So then you do it again, and the kid tells a teacher to screw off, and you're like, well, are you kidding me? So you go to your leaders of the team. You say, look, he needs to be tortured. I'm talking about mush his face. Everything but knock his teeth out. Torture his ass. And then later, when he runs out of the room, and I had kids sit Indian style and say, I refuse, I hate you. And, I was in their wedding, or I went to their wedding, it all worked out. So then you do it, and guess what? Then the principal catches wind because he has a bruise, and the parent calls, and the parents can't whip their kid's ass because they get in trouble, and then they wonder why everybody's so screwed up. So then you do it, and the principal tells the AD, says, look, man, my boss, Dan, my job's important. My he or she is telling me, you can't. And then you do it again, and then the superintendent of schools, which they're the worst because they're all politicians, and then they tell you to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Right? And then I got newspaper articles to prove this. And find one of those kids that won't come back and tell you that it was a great experience, it was good for them, and there's love, like there's a great relationship there because of that, and so Bill Smith grabbed me in lacrosse right by the face mask, and my dad loved it, and he was going to kill me, and all I did was had a broken stick, and I poked the kid from Cambridge, and he started bleeding a little bit, but I was as mad.
He stabbed somebody.
I didn't know the stick was kind of broken, but here's the thing. So then here's what happens. Why is the superintendent of schools, who I've never done anything, I don't know what his problem is, why can't, and if it was their son in our room, they'd love it. They'd love what was happening. But when it comes to it's not their kid, they're like, they got to play these little rules, right? Why do they have to? Because the teachers union and everybody else will be up their ass. And who runs the teachers union? The liberals. That's it. I'm trying to help you guys. It's very simple. It boils down to this mindset of no accountability. It's not about work for what you want. It's not about hustle and muscle. It's about everybody get a uniform and a trophy. And I know that makes you all sick, and it makes everybody sick. But then who stands up when that shit happens and says, no, man, they need that. A little boy needs that. And so to answer one of the questions earlier, it comes down to the philosophy and who controls it. And it's a Democrat-controlled bullshit in our school systems that won't allow us to treat the boys the way they need to be treated, to be better Americans, better kids, and tougher people, and loyal, and strong, and stand up and fight, and do the right thing, and go through your phone and find a shorter route to get where you have to go to make your kids go to PA so they can get beat and get better. See, they won't. So it's never going to get better here until that changes at that level. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen because they've taken over. They're ingrained pretty deep.
Well, it seems like it's gotten worse.
Hell yeah, it's gotten worse, Jay. It's gotten way worse. So what do? Move to PA?
Yeah, you can try to change it, I guess.
Well, so you have to go private.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Are you? How many times are parents seeking your opinion or JC's or the coach's opinion on when they're in 8th grade or 7th grade and going to school?
Absolutely. We have meetings.
And you're saying don't go public.
Well, depends on the kid.
Depends on
and it depends on what
go.
kind of money and what kind of deal and what they can afford.
Right.
And it depends on a lot of things. But now if they're at Glenelg with those coaches or at Hammond, I'm like, that's cool, man. Go, because they've won.
Well, you didn't tell that to Dominic Solis.
but
No, that was a weird time.
Yeah, and we weren't really hanging. And they were
I blame
all over,
Smitty for that one.
Well, and they were all over him. And if you knew the deal he got, you'd be like, oh my gosh, you know. So
I'd say it worked out pretty well for
No,
him.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was the right move.
Yeah, but sometimes lying's good. Sometimes it's okay to lie. And the perfect example is Dominic Solis. When I saw that little kid wrestling, I did a little recruiting here, right? Over there at this match, I saw this little kid, little curly hair, and he's out there rolling around. I thought he was Spanish. I didn't know he was Italian. Then I found out he was Puerto Rican, so I don't really know. But I didn't know. I love it, right? They call him the Puerto Rican love boat. That's what I call him. So he was rolling around, and I was like, watched him move. Remember, he never made our starting lineup. I'm like, this kid could be great. What an athlete, right? Man, I told every lie. I remember his dad was filming, or mom, one of them, and I pulled him aside. I told every lie I could to get him. Matt Pente too. So actually, I have to back up. I did kind of recruit those two because I was like, they're going to get wasted down here in this Howard County rec, and I told everything I could. And so, how can you say that telling a little lie wasn't good? Look at Dominic. Now he's going to Maryland. He won the Schultz Award.
Yep,
he went to McDonough High School, got good grades. Sometimes lying's okay.
Hey, like I said, it worked out. And I remember, it's funny, the two that Smitty came in and said, I only remember him talking like and predicting like about two kids. One was Snyder and the other one was the little Solis. Because we had Anthony, I think they kind of started wrestling at the same time.
Yes.
And I think it was my last year there when Anthony was a freshman.
No,
or
freshman,
sophomore.
but was wrestling at the Warhawks.
Yeah,
and
so I gave Smitty a hard time. I said, "Look, we needed him. You know what I mean? We needed him. He would be a varsity starter as a freshman." And it was like, "Oh, I didn't know if he was gonna make it," and blah 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 blah. And so I gave Smitty a hard time, and then blah blah blah, and it was whatever. And then he was like, "Wait till you see his little brother, man." You know what I mean? And that was, I mean, he was probably fourth grade at that time. And yeah, sure enough, he had a great career and heading to Maryland. I hope I would say he's probably one of their best recruit coming out.
Could be. I mean, Clemson's done a good job of getting. I know Max Bentley and Garrett Kappas are both going there also. So coming out of Maryland, they've got some pretty talented kids to trying to use the homegrown talent to compete at that level.
I mean, he's got two of our guys now, Jack Parr and Solis. Jack Parr is one of the best athletes I've ever seen. He's just been unhealthy, but he'll be healthy this year. But why hasn't Clemson been to the barn? Can we put that out there? Clemson, how come you haven't been to the barn?
We'll
Now,
put it out there.
I've tried calling.
I think we're going to try to get him on the show.
My experiences with him is that he's definitely is all in. He's come out to to the champions.
I know, and I was mad. I heard he went to your place, and I think Whitelaw or something. By the way, Kramer Whitelaw is doing a great. They're going to build something over there if they give them the fund to do it. They're doing a great job. But I'm kind of kidding. But
no, I'm sure that
I
he
think
would go.
The kids
out.
love Clemson. I've heard so many great things.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably still getting his bearings straight on the whole Maryland scene, and he's got to. If he's going to compete in the Big Ten, he's got to be recruiting nationwide. But there's no reason the best Maryland kids can't be going to Maryland. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he needs to get Bearings ass on out to the barn and see what's happening.
I'm sure that he will. Now
I'm kind of kidding, but still,
I get you. But from his time at Missouri, he's proved that he can be part of a coaching staff that's taken homegrown talent, which is what they did at Missouri, and they were an upper echelon team. So I think we just got to be patient with it. But I'm sure if it's something that's important to you, and you guys are able to get in touch with one another, I'm sure that he'd have no problem coming out there.
Because there's some good ones coming up, man. I mean, there's some good ones. You look at Federline and then obviously Shapiro and Athey and Matt Lawrence. And,
who are the eighth graders coming out?
Well, there's
assuming there's a wrestling season next year.
Yeah, well, we'll have one either way, so we'll have our own dual meets.
All right, there we go.
We've got some really good ones, and we don't know if they're 8th or 7th right now because they're really young, so they might repeat.
That's right. You guys redshirt people at the Warhawks program.
Well,
don't you?
we tried to read the book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers.
Yep, I've seen it.
So how can you read that book and not let your kid? And PA, they're always a year older than us. How are we going to come? Another reason. And the list that I just made, come look on our wall. The Thomases. Snyder was already back early, so he was older. Budocks, Daniel Plana. Look, we've got to get somebody's got to come beat us. Somebody's got to talk some shit. And
who's capable? Like, who do you think? Do you see anybody that's capable of doing it?
Yeah, I think that Kiesling's got a program that's capable. I mean, he's built it up. He's got what's he got? 10 kids. Him and Wilma. I call his wife Wilma. He and Wilma have like 10 kids running around or whatever, and all the kids, guess what? There's going to be 2 or 3 good ones with each of them. Next thing you know, that's 12, 15 kids that are studs because his kids, he's getting them to the right events. And Gabrielson's group, if Jason stayed in it, because he's a good coach, just because I don't want to, French kiss him, doesn't mean he's just a good coach. And
Are you guys, in all seriousness, are you guys on good terms?
I always try to talk, but like, he's just nasty to me.
It's just competitive?
Now, I guess, I don't know, but then he tells Ray Cable that, hey, how can I run down the Warhawks? That's what I want to be. We want to catch and beat the Warhawks. So I love that about him. You know, so I don't know. I don't care. I'd rather be friends and battle, because you never want to lose from a friend. But I just don't know where it comes from. And like, his kids are just great. I mean, his older son is just as nice as kid. I mean, and he's tough, man. Shit.
Well, the whole family's, you know, in my interactions have been great.
That's what I'm saying. So, it's not like there's nothing bad to say like that. It's just, I don't understand, just because I guess I didn't want to hold hands or whatever. But, you know, next thing you know, you get long hair, then you get earrings, tattoos, you're riding a skateboard, and then you're playing a skin flute. It's just,
we'll go ahead and pass off on this now. I would love it, honestly. You know, if it's something you're interested in, coming down and or possibly getting Zoom, and you can have, you know.
I got to find out what a Zoom is.
Do you have a computer?
Well, yeah, it's just hard to read the screen a little.
That's not a computer. That's a phone.
You're gonna say we have to argue. That's a computer. That
does
everything.
Yeah, I won't lie. Mackin records most of his on his phone.
One buddy has one. I can use his. Well, I don't want to get corrupted by this computer society. I'll be playing video games, and I'll be riding a skateboard.
Well, I'm sure that we'll have plenty of content that we can come back and sit down and have a discussion with a little bit later on. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we let you go? We can obviously talk wrestling for hours.
Well, to help with the real agenda, right? So Bob Burkhart, I don't know if you know Bob. He's in the Hall of Fame. Great. Again, no kids in it. He built that program. He and Waddy hate each other. It should be Kiesling, Gabrielson. They should fight. And then we'll have Bob and Bob's little. Waddy might lay on him, but we'll have them, and that'd be a great fundraiser.
You're just picking fights.
Well, then there could be some people. A lot of people hate me. A lot of hatred for Ricky. Dan. But here's the thing. And I'm going to be honest. When you can't walk, it's hard to do that, you know? So, I mean, but then you have to. Because I'm talking a lot of shit, so if you got to go, but I'm getting old, you know. But here's the thing: if you could put something out, because if we're really doing this to make Maryland better, I got the formula. Not Dan Ricker. Ricky didn't invent any formula. I copied from some people and implemented it and stayed loyal to it. The only thing that I do that's just myself, is that I really do get to where I build a relationship and care about the kids, like love them, you know, and they can sense it. So when they get beat up, it's easier to take. Nobody's ridiculing. And I take up for them for their parents when their parents are on their ass. So if we're going to do this, let's come up with some, so that other people, because I'll be willing to go sit down with any of these coaches and say, here's what you have to do. Here's the steps. Getting the parents involved, finding guys like Chris Lawrence and Collishman and Heather Harbison and people that run the program to run it for you. You worry about coaching. Come up with some things you want to get real good at, your foundation. Be tough. When there's a fight, step out from behind the building, go get in it, don't hide behind the building. All these things, and we can do it. I know that I could start a program anywhere in the state, and by 3 years, be right in the middle, and by 4 years, I think we'd win it. What did I do in wrestling? I didn't win it. I played football in college. What did I do? So am I saying we win it because I'm something special? I'm just a guy, but I know what it takes, and it'll work. And I know we can take that system. I don't care where it is, high school, college, and we'll kick people's ass.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we actually have you back at some point
whenever you
want? We'll lay it
out to the parents to call in and say their experience with the barn and the difference it made with their kids. Forget about me. Then people will see, wait a minute. This isn't Fatso up here running his mouth. This is like a real parent, like a Vosmansky or some of these guys that been through, it was rough for them. And let them make comments, because then the other coaches that are out here will see it and say, shit, there's really something too, because it backs up what I'm saying. Or it calls me out, a phony, if these people don't respond and it doesn't parallel what I've said. And if we do this, man, I'm telling you guys, look at the guys in Division I now. Maryland's never had that many. We could be just as good as anybody.
Well, you would agree that having 4, 5, 6 programs like that around the state is going to be all competing against each other. is the way to get it done, right?
Yeah. It would make everybody better around
So,
you.
right.
Sure.
Forget these leagues and these weird people. Look, have your thing, have Anne Arundel, do your Vipers. I hope John doesn't get out of it. He shouldn't.
He said he's not going to.
Okay, so he shouldn't, because, and then the guy, and I'm worried Rodriguez is going to get out. He needs to have talk to mom there, and he needs to have another couple, because then he'll stay in it. Giggs got like 8 of them running around, so he might stay in it, and that'll be good, and they'll be good. And then what we do is you take those leagues, and we have a couple dual meet tournaments each year, and you take all Anne Arundel, form a group of the kids that are ready, right? The real good ones, the best. And I'll make a rule that says they can't come to Warhawks. They can't wrestle and see what we're doing and say, we want to go there. If they do it the next year or later, that's up to them, because that's what everybody's scared of.
Right.
So
I'll tell you, and look, I'll give you background on our, Viper situation. They, basically were worried that me and Joe were going to do basically what they accused you and Bill of doing, is steal. They're going to steal all the kids. They're going to start their own thing, and then they're going to steal all the kids. And we said, look, we don't really. I mean, I like the organization that they have there. They get a lot of reach. The rec league is the best out there as far as numbers. So many, it's well organized and run. But they, because we were Hammond guys and Ricker guys, Smitty guys, they were scared that, I won't tell you who said it, but you probably know who said that.
Well, I could name a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. I mean, who knows? But look, do it. Tell them we won't take them, but for certain events, bring us your best kids. We'll have a internal wrestle off, and we'll wrestle the Warhawks, and we'll wrestle the Rampage, and we'll set it up. We have the barn, cost nothing, and we'll go wrestle them, and we can all talk shit about who won. So that way they're not crying that you're going to go anywhere. Stay, but take the best of your group.
Yep.
Tell these other coaches that are running the other rec league, not at Hammond, to toughen up a little bit and let you teach them how to run a practice. So then you have a few more to pick from. Noggle and those guys you can't tell me Montgomery County can't put an all-star team that kicks our ass. That's despicable. And so do it. And then twice a year we'll have a dual meet tournament. We'll make some big prize up, whatever, something the kids like, and we'll have a hell of a battle. Everybody can talk shit. No cops are called. We can battle and make tough. Like we can, and you get awards. If you make someone cry, you get something for it. Like just be tough, right?
There's a lot of crying in junior league. That's something I learned this year. They cry a lot.
But when you tell a kid, if you make that kid cry, I don't mean cheating. I mean just beating his ass. You're going to get something for it. Then when he's on the other end, he's like, shit, I better not cry. It becomes intuitive. Well, I don't want to cry because he'll get rewarded for. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then if you do cry, you have to wear a dress in practice the next day. Just go to Goodwill. I bought all size dresses, and if you get pinned or that, you have to wear a dress. And guess what? Their ass won't get pinned. And so and then when the kid that makes them cry, then you got to go up afterwards and sit with them in the bleachers. Whether he's Wolfpack, we've done this, and be their friend. See, you got to be their friend and say, hey, man. And now all of a sudden the guy's like, this monster's a human. And then he's like, I just watched him tie his shoes. That's just how I tie my shoes. He puts his pants on like I do. I could be that. And then the next year he's like, and then my good kid will say, look, try to beat me next year, man. Keep working. See, it's not bully their ass and bust their ass and then go encourage them to be tougher.
But you agree, like you said it yourself, so some people are taking it too far, right? They're being just, like Noggle said, repulsive behavior, not necessarily from you, but maybe the parents.
I smell repulsive right now. Or is that what?
No.
Something smells repulsive. I think a Snickers bar might have rolled out under this table. Or is that my feet?
Well, this is getting off the.
Yeah, sorry.
What was your last thing you said?
No, I was just saying that the parent, that's something that you've been accused of.
You're
that
no good, or you're a loser.
Yeah.
But the kid being rough in a match,
right,
beating somebody up and hard cutting them out of bounds, that's up your alley.
Sure.
Right? That's up your alley. So, but then, and be mean as you can, right? Not punching them, but then what does it matter, Ryan? if afterwards the kid that did that to you, you're sitting there and you see him coming, you're like, oh shit, and you're scared, and you're like, and then he sits by you, puts his arm around you and says, hey man, hang in there. Come on, tell me that's invaluable. Tell me that's not invaluable. If that was your son and he got his ass beat, and then you turn around and saw the kid, goat roped him, and you saw the kid with his arm around him talking to him in the bleachers, said, come to Monday to practice, I'll work with you. Well, how would you feel about that kid?
Sure. Yeah, that's
You'd
fine.
love him. You'd love the kid that beat your kid. You see, instead of being like, oh, they cheat, the Warhawks cheat, like all these pussies out there want to say about us. Nobody cheats. We're just better. I wish you would get better and beat us. But we don't, man. I tell them, no bullies. Like, you go tell that, you be nice to that kid afterwards. I want to punch Bill Smith in the stomach right now.
No, I do have to work later on today.
Oh, sorry.
So I had to, this is me tapping out here. But unless there's anything else that you guys want to discuss.
Nope, we'll hit it in part 2, right?
Yeah, we'll definitely. This one might be a 3-parter. But do want to thank Dan Ricker for coming by today from the Warhawks program. Some of the things he said here, champions that wrestle or myself may or may not agree with. And I really do appreciate you coming by and speaking your mind. I think that's something everyone wants to hear. Even if they don't agree with what's being said, the fact that you are saying it and speaking your mind is something that I think everybody can agree with.
Well, look, what you guys are doing, and you guys are good at this, by the way. I mean, it's pretty good. I didn't realize when I watched the Naga one, and you guys are good. I didn't know what to expect. The people that you're saying, if they will find it repulsive till they come to practice once. And then they'll be like, they want to be part of it. So I want to punch Bill in the kidney. Maybe he'll pee blood. But other than that, it's time to do some fishing.
Cool. All right, let's do it.
Well, thanks again.
Thanks
Jason,
again
for being with us. And, this is another episode of the Champions That Wrestle podcast. Thank you for supporting. We'll see you next time.